Greetings, everybody. How are you all doing today? Welcome to episode 4 of Ham Radio Live. This is our episode for October 15th, 2021. We go live on youtube.com/MrMattyPlays every single Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, I'm joined by my beautiful co-host who's nice and showered today in his snuggly little Animal Crossing shirt, Paul Lombardo. Paul, how you doing?
Dude, today's a great day for Animal Crossing fans.
Yeah,
Man, I don't know. You're looking fresh. You got the haircut.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It was time to go back to the business look that I've had for many years, much to the chagrin of my girlfriend who likes my long hair. It was a tough battle, right? Because here's what's happening: is you got my mom who's a big fan of the short hair. I got Tyler, a big fan of the short hair. I got the love of my life saying she likes it long. I got other people saying it's good when it's long. Eventually, you got to make a call for yourself. And I was just tired of the hair in the face. I was tired of brushing it around, especially at the gym. It was maintenance. Sometimes I just want to get up and go. So, yeah, went and got the haircut. Appreciate you hyping it up because it's different.
It's kind of funny. I'm in this exact same situation. Mom likes short hair. Friends like short hair.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maya, my girlfriend, loves it long. But I have like thinner hair, as you know. So when it's longer, it just looks really bad.
Right. Yeah. Dude, it's a tough call. It's a tough call.
And I get,
like, who do you please?
My hair gets oily quickly too. So the longer it is, but I used to like it longer. Now I'm kind of with that, the shortcut.
As you get older, I think it's just you're more attracted to the shortcut. For me, it's just literally, this is easy. Like, I did not touch my hair today at all. I did not touch it at all. That's all. I just rolled out of bed. Check the mirror, little finger comb. I was like, all right, off to Best Buy I go to get Demon Slayer.
I did the exact same thing.
There we go. Yeah, we have a good night ahead of us too, because we're going to play that after this. But for those who are tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. It seems like the reception to our past couple episodes has been great, so thank you so much. We appreciate that. As always, we're not only available on YouTube, we're available on other podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, etc. There are links in the description on the YouTube video, so if you're looking to listen on any of those apps, please go ahead and do so. We also want to call the early birds out who joined us in the beginning of the show. If you're interested in calling in, you can join right now on patreon.com/MrMattyPlays, also linked in the description down below. We want to hear from you. We do a couple call-ins before we get into the news, and we want to keep getting new voices in there. So you can also, by the way, for those who are interested in listening on the go, you can just search up Ham Radio Live or Mr. Matty Plays, whichever is easier for you. Just don't forget your periods when you search Ham Radio Live, and you'll find our lovely new show. Any ratings and reviews of 5 stars is always appreciated, and it helps scoop up our show a little bit. So that extra legwork would be much appreciated. Anyway, Paul, we've got ourselves what I think is a pretty busy week, from Avowed to Fallout to Nintendo having balls of steel. There's plenty to go over. And, real quick, do you have the timer going? Or are we going to...
So it's kind of funny. Right when we started, I remembered the timer. So I don't have it, but what I'm going to do is I'll start it now. And then
just add 4 minutes to every...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I'll start it at 5 minutes exactly. So then you don't have to count for...
Hell yeah.
Seconds and stuff.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Unchem Talk with our first super chat, saying nothing better than clocking out and catching ham. We appreciate you, Unchem Talk. Called in last week. It was great chatting with you. Thank you for the support here, for those of you who are joining us live. With that, nothing else for our opening. No real housekeeping going on here. Paul, I suggest we just dive into what we're playing.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot this week. I think we've been kind of playing some more games.
Mm-hmm.
We're both playing Resident Evil 4, or we both finished it.
Yes.
Indeed. That game is great.
Yeah, I was really impressed.
Evil 4.
I was really impressed. What did you like most about it?
See, everything I liked most about it is stuff that I loved from 8. Like the shop system, I thought was a really natural sort of way for progression, like for you to progress your weapons and upgrade things.
Mm-hmm.
But also just kind of like the world design. I don't know, it was very atmospheric, and one of my favorite tracks, I posted this on Twitter, but is the track for the save room.
Oh yeah,
Dude,
so
it's
good.
Like so reflective. I don't know, it's just it really ropes you into the atmosphere. And another thing is the atmosphere switches a lot. Like one moment you're in the village, then you're in this like Spanish castle, and then after that you're in a lab, and then I think towards the end it's like an oil rig type thing. I don't really know,
like an island.
Yeah, and it was just so fun. And even it's kind of dated, right? So a lot of the dialogue was almost cheesy, but I kind of realized that Resident Evil is that's kind of part of the charm.
Yeah,
Like the
definitely.
cheesy dialogue, and I found it charming. So it was
I
a good
agree.
game. I'm glad I
Yeah,
went back during October.
it's an interesting perspective we both have because we both played it for the first time this past week, right? I did a full video for it, recorded it with Brett Medlock of Nintendo Enthusiast. That'll be on Retro Rebound as sort of a 2021 review of that game. It'll go out the same day that Resident Evil 4 VR drops. We wanted to synchronize it with that so that, people are looking it up. Maybe they'll come across our review, our discussion on it. But yeah, in that I said pretty much the same exact thoughts you had, which is I think the atmosphere for that game is way stronger than I expected. It's actually creepy in some parts, which I did not expect at all. We have a good friend Trex who plays a lot of Resident Evil 4. He's got like 80 hours in it, even though it's for him like a 4 or 5 hour game. He just replays it all the time whenever he gets a little bored. And he he really sold it on being an action game, which it is. But I thought because of that, it wouldn't be as at times nerve wracking as it was. And there was a really strong atmosphere when it was like raining in the village. One of the boss fights that was in the barn with the smoke from the fire, and you saw the things like spine stretch out. I thought it was absolutely awesome. So really, really good game. The balance too was really good. I thought compared to something like Resident Evil 7, where they based the enemy damage on your amount of bullets you had in your inventory, where actually in this game it felt a lot more fair, honestly. And the way the environments were structured, where it was claustrophobic, but you had enough room to maneuver and aim and do what you needed to do. It's really well designed. I was very, very much impressed, and you can understand why people called it one of the best games of all time. I don't think it's going to be mine. I still, guiltily so, I enjoy a little Resident Evil 5 in my life, but that's for another conversation. Still, Resident Evil 4 was excellent.
Yeah, 5 is something I need to. Next Resident Evil game I'm playing is definitely 5 because you and Trex and Brian talk highly of it. So I know it's kind of like, isn't it sort of a black sheep opinion though, like of yours, because it's not that loved in the community?
I think it's loved now, but definitely when it came out, it was a little too action packed. There was Sheva, who was kind of this plug and play character. Like she wasn't even supposed to be in the game. It definitely wasn't scary, especially coming off of 4. I can confidently say there's nothing creepy or scary about 5. It's just a really, really good co-op game, in my opinion, which I don't think Resident Evil was known for at all. So it definitely backstabbed some things in the franchise. And I think some of the hate for 5 also came from when 6 followed it up. A lot of people enjoyed 5. 6 continued in this really action-heavy co-op direction. I remember even as a fan of 5, I loved 5 when I first got my 360, but 6 I didn't even like that much. Now it's got a little bit of a charm. And I think because they've gone back to basics to some extent with 7 and 8, people have sort of forgiven those transgressions. But yeah, 5 is, I don't know if it's a black sheep anymore. It'd be interesting to see what some of the audience has to say on that. But as it stands currently, I think it's mostly enjoyed at this point in time. Kind of like 76. It's after the couple of years it's been out. Some people are like, all right, fine, I'll play you. I'll enjoy you a little bit.
Oh my god, yeah. Wasn't there there was a tweet I saw. I think you sent it. It was really funny. This guy, he bought 76 on Steam and then refunded it like an hour
he's
later.
like, that's enough of that.
Dude, oh man, that game is.
Yeah, I know. It's. I'm so up and down with it at times. Shout out to 99 Rukin with another super chat to start off our show here. If Sega joins Microsoft and we see Xbox Smash, who's on the cover? Also, I need that background as a wallpaper. Good show. Yeah, we're going to be releasing a wallpaper version of this shortly, so that'll go out to patrons first. So don't worry about that. But thank you for the love on the art. We are big fans of it as well. But if Sega joined Microsoft and we see Xbox Smash, who's on the cover? It's got to be Master Chief. Master Chief's got to be the face of a Smash Bros. Xbox game.
For sure. I mean, he launched with Xbox. I think he's definitely the biggest Xbox character, right?
I agree. Certainly there's more to come down the line. We'll be talking about one of them potentially in our first bit of news.
Yes, very exciting.
Yes. Let's keep going with what we're playing though. Are you beyond Resident Evil 4? You play anything else you want to talk about this week?
Dude, I've been addicted to Hades, and I only started it last night, but I was literally playing it 5 minutes before the podcast. It is so fun. I got through the second boss, which was the Hydra, I think. And God, immediately when I booted it up, I was like, "Yep, this game's gonna be addicting." It's just so. I don't know what it is about it that instantly grabbed me. I think it was the fact that like all these different runs, they never really feel the same because you're getting like different boons and all the different gods and goddesses, and it's. I'm not far enough to really have a huge opinion on it, other than the
Right.
fact that it's really fun. But I'm enjoying it a lot, and I'm kind of
Yeah, I
sad that
agree.
I've been sleeping on it because I should have played it when it came out because it's really good.
Yeah, I would have played it when it first came out on Epic Early Access because I love Supergiant games. They brought out Pyre, which me and Carrick raved about a ton. I thought Pyre was excellent. I thought Bastion was really good. Transistor was a top 3 game of the year in 2014 for me. That team never misses. So I had a feeling Hades would be good, but I wanted to wait for the full release of the game. And when it actually came out, I was surprised at how good it was because I don't like roguelikes. I don't know if you sit in the same ballpark on that, but I can't stand them typically. It takes a really special one to click. Hades is one of those for me.
Yeah, I haven't played many roguelikes, so this one is like one of the first ones I've really dived into, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to be curious to
The
see how your
art
thoughts
style is
develop.
really nice too.
Oh my god, yeah, yeah. It's one of the best parts of the game, especially when you're getting the weapons and you look out at Tartarus from the ledge.
Yeah,
Have you done that? Yeah, it's oh my god, it's
yeah,
so good.
they have it in the like when you get to the second area, you can look out at I forgot what it's called, but it's like
Yeah,
the
I remember
lava
what you're
area.
talking about.
It's just so cool, and then he has like a little monologue and stuff.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I think there's like a lot of funny dialogue too. Like there's a charm to the writing and the voice acting. It's not like anything to write home about, but I think it's pretty fitting for like the game.
yeah. What's interesting about the voice acting, I don't know if anyone agrees with this because it's a really strange thing to notice, but a lot of performances in games are bombastic and loud. And if you listen to Hades and the voice work for it, everyone's a little quiet. Not
Yeah,
volume
that's
quiet,
the
but the
thing I
way
immediately noticed.
they're very soft spoken, and I like that about the game. Everyone's very, despite being gods, they're very human. I don't know how else to describe it, and I really appreciated that approach because that was intentional. I don't know why they did it, but they did. And you know, when you listen to I forget the name of the main character, it starts with a Z.
Zagreus.
Zagreus, thank you. He
Yeah.
just the way he talks, he kind of talks like this, very soft.
Yeah, all the characters do. I think it's because they're trying to perpetuate this like workplace environment. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like where Hades is at, like he's the boss, and then
it's a
you
good
have like
point. I didn't think of that.
So I don't know, but it sort of makes it feel like they're they're more than gods. They're well, not more than gods. They're like people working. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like they're just
Hmm.
kind of it's relatable in a way, which I
Absolutely.
like.
Yeah, I'm gonna be excited to see how your thoughts on that develop. For me, the main game I've actually played this week, I just started Metroid Dread, so I'll have some thoughts on that next week. I haven't played enough of it, like only 3 hours, so I don't want to give too early in my thoughts. But I want to talk about one that I bought as kind of like a it's on sale, it's $2, and
Oh
then
my god,
and then and then I played it for like fucking 7 hours straight. That's
dude.
Thief Simulator on Switch. Oh my god, dude! I don't know what happened, but
This is a game you bought while you were waiting for me to get into call to play Mario Golf.
I did. It was
That's so
two
funny.
dollars, and I thought to
Yeah.
myself, again, this came off of a conversation Carrick and I had, where he's like, "Yeah, the simulator games are actually really good. They go really in depth with them." And there's like, he told me there's drug dealer simulator, cooking simulator. I'm like, I see Thief Simulator. I don't know what it is, but it reminds me of, for example, Dishonored, where I loved like crawling into buildings and stealing stuff and then reselling it and buying other stuff. To me, that's just like a mechanic that's very addicting for me. I don't know if I'm living out some fantasy that I'm unaware of, but point being is that's what Thief Simulator is about. So you get to like mark people, their schedules, you track when they're in and out of the house, and then when you go inside, you grab all of their stuff, you make these hauls, you can get skill points that upgrade your backpack space, how quickly you move around the environment with heavy things that you like a TV or a printer or a piece of art. And I'm throwing them out the window. You put them in the back of your car or in the storage space. There's a ton of little mini games like hacking, lock picking, electronic lock picking, cutting holes in windows. There's just so much there. And I've put probably 10 hours into this game in 2 days. And I really, really like it. I don't know if I'm going to sink any more into it. Like I'm going to put tens of hours into it. But it's been a really good surprise. And I think it's because I got robbed so hard with the Thief game in 2014. Actually, shout out to Felix Check. He just brought up Thief Remake. That game was horrible. I remember being so excited for it. But now this one, I think is just a redemption arc for me. And that's why I've liked it so much. But also, it's been like the best $2 that I've spent. So, you know, shout out to Thief Simulator. Really good game. It's on sale for another couple of days, even after this show goes live for free for everyone. Check it out. $2 on Switch, and I think it's on sale on Steam too. It's actually really, really enjoyable. Guilty pleasure for sure.
Can you get caught by like the police?
Yes. If you fuck up, they'll call the cops. They'll chase you. You have to like hide in a bed, under a bed, or in a closet or a trash can. Yeah, there's so much to it, and there's like not a storyline, but you'll be put on these missions. They got their own internet where they got this thing called like Black Bay, where you'll sell items to the black to the dark web.
Cooper, like
yeah, it really is the thief net. Yeah, and they have Rent a Thug, so you'll accept these odd jobs like going into 102 on Greenbrier Street and breaking someone's fucking sink with a crowbar. There's just these wild, reckless missions that you'll do while you're stealing stuff, and that's the thing is the progression in the game is taking objects and getting out quietly. Because if you get out quietly, it gives you like a 5-star rating on how good of a thief you were, and it'll give you a multiplier. So it's addicting. Like I kept having that feeling of like one more run, and I just kept going. And I kept thinking, like, I'll eventually put this down, but I never really wanted to. And I find it hilarious because everyone's showing off, like, Mario Kart on their Switch OLED, Dread, and I'm just here like, Thief Simulator. Yeah. But it's good, man. Once again, $2. Shout out to Flash Gordon, who said he put 500 hours into it. I can kind of understand why. It's addicting, and it continues to progress because one last thing I want to call out, I don't want to drag this on too much, but what happens is, at first, you're like, okay, you crawl through the window, you get into their house, you take their stuff. Okay. Then you crawl into their house through the electronic lock. Then you crawl up the lattice on the side of their house. Then you climb up the gutters. Now you're stealing their cars because you've learned how to hotwire. Now you're stealing their laptops and you're hacking into them for data and you're selling them for thousands of dollars. Like, it just keeps going. It's got a really good progression loop.
I'm playing the wrong roguelike. I should be playing that instead of Hades.
I know.
Thief Simulator. That's hilarious.
Yeah, shout out to Brett. He's in chat. We had to talk about Resident Evil 4, as I said, and I told him about Thief Simulator. I was like, look, man, this game's actually good. I said, it's $2. If you really, like, put it this way, you could buy like 4 chicken nuggets at McDonald's, or you could try Thief Simulator and maybe get 10 hours out of it. And I think that's a good trade-off. So just anyone out there, $2, try it out. I'd be curious to see the thoughts. Yeah, look at that. David Portnoy said he's picking up Thief Sim on PC. He's sold. Let's go. David, follow up next week. Looking forward to your thoughts on that. With that, anything else you want to talk about that you're playing?
Let's see. I kind of dropped Tales of Arise. I might return to it, but something about it just isn't clicking with me. I think it's the story because the story isn't bad, but it has a really strong start, and then it kind of slows down a little bit, then it picks up. And now I'm near the halfway point, and from what my friends are telling me, it's that the story gets worse as you go along, which is kind of disappointing. So right now I'm like, Hades is grabbing me. I'm going to play Hades and then hopefully come back to Tales. But I don't know. I realized this year I've been dropping JRPGs left and right, which is so odd. But I think it's because there's so much I'm wanting to play that these JRPGs just sink my time. Like I dropped Atelier Rise of 2, but I want to go back to it. I've been thinking about it. 3 Houses and now Tales of Arise.
Interesting.
And I don't know what it is, but I finished Strikers. I finished Kingdom Hearts 2. I think there's a few other JRPGs I played this year. I guess Strikers isn't really.
No, Strikers would count. I think Strikers would count.
Yeah. I'd have to look at my list of games, but I don't know what it is.
I think it's just that. Well, in my opinion, one of those being Fire Emblem, I don't think is really that great. And you picked up on the flaw right away that I had with the game super early, and you can't shake it off. It's just there the whole time. And I told you that if you were having an issue already with like the social system and how it works, I said it only gets worse because they never evolve it. It's just not well balanced.
I was so disappointed when when there's like a point in the game where things change a lot. And then I thought that it would change that system, but it just stays. Like it doesn't even make sense for it to be there. Really, it's really weird.
Yeah, they saw Persona, they liked what Persona did. It's again why I don't get when these companies like Persona, they don't just try to one-for-one design what Persona does with social links. But Fire Emblem tried it. They had a good idea with the school system. I liked it, but it it gets tiresome really fast. And I'm surprised how many people were singing its praises because I thought it was a really flawed game. The first half was really boring to me, and the story in the second half is really good, depending on which route you take, by the way.
The story is picking up. It's just that this gameplay systems are already stale. And the combat, too, which I find weird that the combat's getting stale, but it's just really easy. Like, really, really dumb easy.
And that's funny because that's not Fire Emblem, right? Like that's Fire Emblem's.
Well, this is the first one I played.
Yeah.
So...
Oh yeah. For then, what I'll say is Fire Emblem has always been hard. Even with Awakening, Fire Emblem was still difficult because they had the classic mode, which was like what Fire Emblem was, permadeath, like no going back, that type of thing. But also they had this adventure mode or something, which is kind of what everyone plays now. That doesn't want that type of challenge. They want everyone to live. And I just feel like with Awakening was sort of they got it right there, and then the Birthright series came out, and they didn't really like go as hard, and it's gone downhill since then, I think. So I'm going to be interested to see. We're getting to that point where I think 2022 you're going to see an announcement of a new Fire Emblem game, and I'm really curious what they do with it. Of course, I'll be there. Really, really interested in where they're going to take the franchise, though.
Yeah.
All right.
I think.
Oh, sorry.
Well, hold on.
No, I apologize. I was gonna read a fucking super chat, but you know what? Go on.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay.
Super chats are more boring.
Gaston Colazo says for the H.A.M Rainy Day Fund. Thank you, Gaston. Again, he's making this a weekly tradition. Ugh, I can't speak today. We appreciate that. Go on, Paul. Finish what you were gonna say.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say that something about JRPGs this year have been like, I don't know if it's the fact that the combat just for most JRPGs just kind of stays the same, but it's I guess. Within the last few years, I've played so many that I'm starting to like burn out a little bit on them. Even Neo 2, which is an action JRPG, I dropped, which is really weird. But everything else I played that hasn't been a JRPG, I've played through and I finished. So I don't know. That was just my final take on it.
I think it makes complete sense. Why? Because a lot of them are on the surface level very similar in their character concepts. I think it takes one.
I finished Replicant though, and that one was definitely one that really grinded you down to the bone.
I was gonna say, I think it takes one to really grind you down that you kind of push through, and from there it's hard to recover. Because Replicant for me was the last one I played. That was like 50 hours, and I went okay. And I haven't played a game that long since outside of Arise. But Arise was to me like excellent. I thought that was top tier. So to me,
you had like prior experience with the Tales series too, so you get to see that evolution. But for me, it's just like the first time I'm playing, and it's, I don't know. I don't want to call it mid, but I that's how I feel about it right now.
No, that's totally, that's your opinion, man. It's totally fair. I don't think it's a perfect game, but I think a lot of the love I have for it is because I've been a fan of the series for a while. Shout out to one more super chat, Connor Hathaway. I've been hooked on Fallout 4 settlement mode. That's very interesting. We hope you continue to enjoy that, but hopefully Starfield doesn't have that. With that,
settlement.
What's up?
Settlement mode is just so polarizing. Some people love it, and some people really hate it.
I know. Let's get some call-ins going, shall we?
Yeah, let's bring in. Oh wow, we have a lot of people in the
really
the call-in waiting. Yeah, there's like 6 people in there.
Let's get some fresh blood in here, then. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna mention the people in the comments saying they wanted the Sean Mason.
The difference how many call. We're limiting it to 2, right? So that's how my theory is. Like we should get some fresh blood in. And
you want to bring Drunk Volcano? He's been there since the beginning.
Yeah, we'll do Drunk Volcano.
All right, sweet. Hey, Drunk Volcano, welcome.
What up, PMs? How's it going?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
It's going.
Oh, looking fresh. He's got the shades.
Wow, we got the wow.
Yeah,
I love it.
I have a very important question that's been bothering me for weeks.
All right,
okay.
Weeks.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it. We're here to help.
Oh, it's 4 weeks since the show started.
Okay.
What does the 15 caps mean on the overlay? What does it mean?
Literally
wait, the what?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Literally nothing.
Why?
Because here's the thing. This wasn't even a part of the original design. It was just there. I think the idea that I'm going to guess is that it's a comic book cover, if you will. And so what was happening was you would have, I think on the top right of most comics, like you'd see like 99 cents or whatever, or $1. And I think that's what he was going for with the 15 caps.
All right. I have lost sleep for the past 4 weeks thinking about this, okay?
No, tonight you can sleep easy knowing that it's
Thank you.
It's our pleasure, man.
It's a weekend. I can finally sleep. All right, second question. Have you guys played Back 4 Blood during after the release? No.
I haven't touched it yet.
Only a little bit. I haven't played a lot or enough to have like a crazy full opinion on it, but I can talk on it a little bit if you have a question on it.
Did you play with friends, and if so, how many people?
When I played, it was with a party of, I want to say 2, 3. I'm trying to remember. I played with a couple of people. Yeah, not solo.
All right. This game, I want to love it, but despise it. Okay. So you know the 3 difficulties, right? You have the recruit, which is just brain dead easy, and then veteran, with 2 people, actually playable. You get 3 people in that game, impossible to play. I was wondering if you guys have experienced that at all.
Not yet. It's free on Game Pass, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I've been playing it on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try it because I'm definitely not gonna pay $60 for it. But if it's free on Game Pass, then I'll jump in.
If you try it, play it on PC. God, the controls. The controls on a good console is just god awful garbage.
Wow.
Like,
okay.
Coming in with the heat.
The bar is low right now. My expectations, they're gone.
So you're saying that the highest difficulty, it's too hard? Is that what you were?
No, not even the highest.
Oh.
The second difficulty.
You know what? Wow. It's funny you mentioned that because when I previewed it, that was one of my complaints. Is I fired up Nightmare and I said, "Hey, this is actually weirdly difficult, and not in a fun way. Like we were getting mowed down 2 buildings into the first campaign." And I didn't understand why that was the case. And I thought to myself, I chalked it up to my lack of expertise. I thought there was something with the card system. And that's what I've heard with Back 4 Blood is it's something to do with the card system. But that was the problem with the design of the game is a lot of people were saying, we just want to hop into Nightmare. And because we're good or because we know the strats or the routes, we can complete this campaign at the highest difficulty. So I wonder if your struggles are tied to that. Are you a high level in Back 4 Blood? I know you said you weren't enjoying it, so I don't know how much time you're sinking in it.
I've put maybe 5-ish hours.
Okay.
And then because basically I stopped because I start getting my ass kicked, get a little pissed off, leave. Of course. But I can see where you're coming from with the card system. Because there is 16 pages of cards you can choose from.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
So, and then there's no solo progression, by the way. So solo, you can try out all the cards. But you get stuck with the brain dead AI and get no progression.
Yes, the AI
so there's no point.
Bad. I remember that specifically. The AI is very bad.
So you have to play co-op, or you can't really.
You have to play co-op if you want to progress. But if you don't got somebody to kidnap like a buddy, and you're playing with randoms where the difficulty scales due to the amount of players, you're just screwed.
Yeah,
you can't play.
Yeah,
that's so disappointing. I always. Hopefully they'll fix it though, because I imagine scaling difficulties and something they can't patch out. You know.
Yeah, because it is so noticeable.
My biggest deal breaker, as Jake just said in chat, for me was the no solo progression. Not that I plan on playing it by myself, but that's just a really puzzling oversight that they're going to get rid of, they've said, but it's just a very strange thing to me.
It's hard to get 4 people together at the same time, especially if you really want to like finish the whole campaign. If you're, everybody's older.
Oh, and the campaigns are long too.
Yes.
Wow. Really long.
Yeah. Part of me likes that though, to be honest with you.
So are you a Left 4 Dead fan? Like you played it before?
Yeah, I played 2 on Xbox 360. I played it with mods on PC. I'd like to say I'm a thorough enjoyer of Left 4 Dead.
Right.
But, oh, dude, the AI just kills me. I'll be getting, like, the one that spits on you with the webs?
Right.
They're just standing there watching me. Why they spaz out. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it before, but the AI will spaz out real quick before doing anything. It's just painful. It's the same with the ones on the walls, the sleepers.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Dude. That's so many games this year are suffering from bad AI, like Deathloop.
Deathloop is really bad.
Horrible AI.
And what's funny is people deny that, Paul, and they just released a new update, and I looked at the notes. First thing they said the most significant improvement they made, fucking AI. I was like, they knew. They knew the AI was busted and not responsive.
Isn't it funny that this game's getting got 10 out of 10s from so many companies, but then media organizations, but then they release a patch that fixes something substantial about the game.
Yeah, that they said was fine and working. It's like, I wonder how much everyone's paying attention.
Yeah, for real.
Anyway, but my second question is have you ever experienced a game where playing co-op has punished you?
I feel like I have. I'm gonna have to think about what it is, but I know there's a few games. Oh, Genshin Impact. That's what I was gonna say. Genshin Impact. How like the combat works is you have synergy for your 4 party members, and they all work together. You have like your. They don't have classes
I've played. I'm
necessarily.
familiar.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you know how it works, right? But
Yeah.
when you go into co-op, if it's not with someone you know, you're limited to 2 characters. You can't bring your whole party. And if you go in with 3 people, then you have 1 character. So or 2 characters for the host and then 1 for the everybody else. So being limited to 1 character can be like really detrimental, and you have to have a lot of team play going on. But it's just so much easier, and there's not rewards for doing co-op. It's just they need to fix co-op in that game. But
Well, for me, the problem with co-op and Genshin Impact is when exploring the world. I don't know if they changed this. I played on launch.
They haven't.
You can't co-op.
Yeah.
So me and my buddies were hyping up co-op because it's 15 levels to co-op, and it's like, oh wow, we can do these raids that I can easily solo. Who cares?
Yeah, raids, and it's just like a room of enemies you fight.
It's what bumped me out a little bit. You know, I that was one of the parts I was excited about. For me, my answer would probably be, it's going to be a recent one, but it ties to a ton of games, Far Cry 6. Because what happens is I can't stand co-op games that punish your progression, where there's no carryover. That the person who joins as a partner, and their progression isn't synchronized, because then it's not worthwhile co-op. It's just you're playing together, but like one of us is making progress. And I could even think of something I don't like, even though it's not part of the design. I don't like Dark Souls co-op, for example, Bloodborne co-op. It's so archaic and strange. The summoning circles, the passwords. I'm like, just put a fucking invite system in. Let people play co-op. Let it be that simple. If people want to solo it, which most purists will, they can do it. But I don't know why there's this like weird navigation to co-op. As someone who has soloed almost every single Souls game, Bloodborne, yada yada yada, like. To me, I don't see the big deal, but to me, that's the most frustrating one. But I would probably pick something along the lines of course, Far Cry 6. That progression punishment is bothersome to me.
I remember joining your game in Far Cry 6, and I was so convinced that they had progression, because for some reason I thought in a trailer that they said like multiplayer progression was a thing. And I did like a whole arc with this guy, like probably 2 or 3 hours of gameplay. One of the worst arcs, by the way. And then when I got to back to my game the next day, because we both reviewed it and we had to get it out by embargo, I had to go through and do that whole section again. And that section is the part with like all the cringy dialogue and all that. So it was not.
You just
fun.
feel empty inside.
Yeah, it's like, what happened?
Sorry, that's I played 24 hours of Far Cry 6 so far, so I haven't beaten it yet because I've been taking a break. But
I don't blame you.
me. I would join in on my dad's game, and then like you don't want to do certain story missions because of the 3 separate areas. So like I was in like the middle area, my dad was in like the first area all the way in the top. It's like I don't want to experience the story with him. Love my dad, but don't want to play and redo the story again on my own game.
Right.
Yeah.
It just not for me.
It removes the incentive to co-op.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, Volcano, it's been a blast speaking with you. Thank you for coming with the hype, the energy, great microphone, shades. We hope you come in, call in again. Dude, it was great talking to you.
Will do. I signed up. I clocked out of work, working from home. I signed up for Patreon. I was like, I have to know
what
the 15 caps mean.
No,
I can't take it anymore.
We will always reward people's curiosity on this show. So we appreciate you calling in. Thank you for signing up as well. It means a lot. And please don't hesitate to call in again. We'd love to talk with you.
Will do. All right. See you guys.
Take it easy.
Thanks for coming. Bye.
I cannot emphasize enough to the audience how big of a difference it makes when you show up like that. That was hype.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was great.
I love that.
Who else do we got in the calling list here?
There's a lot of people. Do you want to pick? Because I picked last time.
Yeah. Let's pick Arctic's World 46 or Arctic's Word. Let's get them.
I think it's Arctic Sword. That's
Arctic
my
Sword.
guess.
Yeah, you're probably.
Well, let's ask him. Let's see what it is.
Yeah.
What's up, Arctic Sword?
Hello. Arctic's Word, Arctic Sword. We'll see. The mic is currently muted, so we'll see if they undeafen or not. Yeah, we'll give them some time here. But yeah, that was awesome. Came in with the shades, called us pimps.
Dude, I loved it. Yeah. Hey, we can hear you.
Hello.
All right.
Hey.
There we go.
Yeah.
There he is. Hi. How's it going?
I'm all right. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm a long-time subscriber, Matty. Ever since the days of you discovered Fallout 3 on PlayStation 3.
Oh my
those glory
god.
Oh
days.
wow.
That is a throwback. The one where I was like kicking a box around my room, you mean?
You were getting like mad at like, and then like you did like the New Vegas thing where you was playing it was like Rust, and you get like super mad too.
Dust, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Dust or the Dust mod.
The dust. Yeah.
That was great. Anyway, it's great to meet you. What's on your mind?
So like I know that you guys are going to get into the Avowed thing a little bit later, but I was kind of wondering, like with them kind of Obsidian now kind of doing like their own like take on like Elder Scrolls and stuff. Like, do you think that Bethesda will kind of like see that and will kind of maybe not copy them, but kind of like, okay, we got to step our game for Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever. Because I mean, obviously, with Skyrim being probably 15 years old by the time Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, you got to think they're like, okay, well, they got to do something really, really good. Todd keeps saying how they kept waiting for the technology and stuff. So I'm wondering,
Right.
if because you have to they have to take a look at the landscape around them because they kind of play catch up in a way almost. And Starfield being with Starfield, they kind of going to show us what they can do now, but I'm just kind of wondering what your take on that is, like, with them maybe looking at the landscape and going, well, we can do this better, or what we could do now that we couldn't before, something like that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting perspective that you bring up that I'd never considered. The reason for that is because I never thought, and it's really important for the design of their game, are they going to make a sequel to Skyrim, literally, as in, like, what do we do to bring Skyrim forward, or are they going to make effectively a step forward in the design of what Starfield shows? Because what I mean by that is you look at Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and they share a ton of similarities now. They share designs and how their worlds are structured. And so you have to wonder, will Bethesda be taking a look at their own products, and how do you follow up what they've made? Or are they going to look across the studio space, we'll say, at Obsidian and what they're doing? So that's a really great perspective to bring into focus. Paul, I want to start off with you. What do you think they're going to do for starters?
Well, I think the smart choice would be to, look at Obsidian, because the community loves Fallout New Vegas, right? And I refuse to believe Bethesda doesn't know that. They can put their head in the sand as much as they want. They know everybody loves New Vegas. So we talked about this, I think, last time or on the second episode, but they really need to look at what was done there and try to replicate something, especially with Starfield. But as for the Elder Scrolls, I think they're going to stick to their guns with how they want to, create that, because it's like their baby, right? It's Todd's baby. I don't think that they're going to try and take inspo from anyone, and they'll probably develop it how they want to develop it. So I don't think they're going to take a lot from Obsidian or even any other game dev studio, but it would probably be smart for them to do that, because they only can have so many chances before people just stop buying their games, Like with Starfield has to be good, or it's going to be it won't be good if it's not good. You know what I mean?
agree.
It's just
Right.
it's going to be a problem.
Right. And because you can look at Fallout 4 was kind of love it or hate it, it's its own thing, and then with the launch of 76, people have, and everything that happened after with Fallout First and everything, people really need to trust them again, and Starfield is that chance. But looking forward, even after that, there's just so much that they need to do as a studio to just make sure that hey, we are Bethesda, we are still here, and we are the studio that brought you these great games, and we can still make these great games for you guys to play, and I just think that maybe them taking a look at the area around them, because even if in 2015 when Fallout 4 came out, people were taking a look at other games like Witcher 3 and stuff, and just going, well, I mean, you have stuff like this, and either Fallout 4 was still good or whatever, but it's there's so many things that they could have done maybe different or better or whatever. But now with it being several years later, like I said, I think that they just need to maybe look, not copy anybody, but just take a look around them and just kind of
like scan the environment, see what's going on with
scan the environment,
their games.
I agree. I think it's going to be obviously easier to tell which direction they should go in after Starfield. Right now, I do believe it's really easy to say, Bethesda, go copy Obsidian because you fucked up Fallout 76. But we've seen kind of what happens when Bethesda tried to stop following Obsidian's footsteps. When you look at the narrative structure of Fallout 4, compared it to New Vegas, they tried to do the 4 factions, different pathways with a ton of different endings that sort of culminate in the same area, but different outcomes. And they didn't really do it that well. I thought they made a fun video game to play, and I enjoyed so many different things about Fallout 4, but I don't think they came close to what Obsidian did. And I always say this, Paul, I made a video together on it, but I think New Vegas in a lot of ways was the product of Fallout 3 in the sense of Fallout 3 laid out a blueprint, like here's how the world works, here's how the HUD works. Like all the design was done for the game. So effectively, New Vegas just got to play in a whole new world space and focus on story and choice.
And they did phenomenal because that's all they had to really focus on.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly that's why I think that game did so well. Not to take away from what Obsidian did, but mind you, they did this in 18 months. So a lot of the heavy load lifting was done. So I think it's, once again, really easy to tell Bethesda Game Studios after some of their recent releases to go copy Obsidian. We did see them try to do it. I don't think they did it that well. I think what's going to be interesting is if Starfield comes out, and let's talk about if Starfield's good, then that's a whole different conversation. It's like, do you try to bring elements of Starfield, let's say, how exploration works in that game? Because we don't normally think of, say, vehicles in any Bethesda game, whether it be Fallout or of course there's horseback in Elder Scrolls, but we don't. I personally never travel on horseback in Elder Scrolls. I think it's such a waste of time. But with Starfield, I could imagine we're gonna see starships and being able to fly around.
There
in space.
has to be.
Has to be,
that.
right? And it's like, well, now how does traversal work? My theory has always been with the way the timeline for Elder Scrolls 6 will likely pan out, and it's going to be set in Hammerfell. That's practically a guarantee at this point. Is I think you're going to see them evolve how Skyrim had those big battles of dragons, and they felt kind of janky, into pretty much what Elder Scrolls Online tries to do now with those huge, like dozens of players versus dozens of players wars. Except making it single player, like real-time destruction. Like I think that's where they're going to go with it. That's my prediction currently. And for that, they should just trust themselves, because it's very easy to think short-term, especially in gaming, because it takes so long for a game to come around. But in my opinion, Bethesda Game Studios has made 4 Game of the Year titles, one of them being a Game of the Generation with Skyrim in a row. And really Morrowind being a Game of the Generation and Oblivion being generation defining. Like they've accomplished so much that for me, it rocked my confidence on them, but it has not rocked my faith in the idea that they know what they're doing. They keep a lot of their staff. Very few of them have left, where I think they can figure it out. So for me, it's like, yeah, take notes from Obsidian. Don't put yourself, your head in the sand, but I think they can trust themselves to get the job done.
I hope that one thing with Hammerfell is, or whatever, Elder Scrolls 6, I hope they take the hand-to-hand combat and evolve it in some way, because so many games have way better sword combat than like the hacky slashy stuff that we see in Skyrim, and I would love to see them do something with it. Even like The Witcher, I know that's third person, but I enjoyed that combat more than Skyrim's, and The Witcher isn't really notorious for its combat, so it would be interesting to see how they develop that.
Absolutely. Well, that was a great question, Arctic. We appreciate you calling in, and it'll carry right into our first news topic, actually. So it's a great transition, too.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Day.
Talk with you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice. That was like you said, perfect for a transition into what we're talking about next.
Yeah. So let's do it up. Now we get into the news. We'll have more call-ins later on the show. We'll tag the server when those call-ins go. So for those who are listening live, if you want to tab out of the waiting room, and then we'll catch you later on, we'll tag the server again, because that was probably our best series of call-ins. I think that is what I envisioned with our show. Like just getting different perspectives, different questions that we never considered. Like when I was thinking about talking about Avowed for this week, I didn't think of that angle. So that's why I love this idea. And I honestly, I'm seeing more and more people like getting what our perspective is and how this show can be special. So shout out again to the audience for making the show better. It means a lot. It helps a lot.
I think people are growing more comfortable with like signing up to the Patreon and joining, which I think is awesome, because like you said, it brings those perspectives in. I'm sure now our Avowed discussion will be like totally different because of that.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of humor in there too. Like, the drip guy. Yeah, I love that. Like, it's great. It adds some flair to the show, some personality.
Absolutely.
Differentiates it from the original H.A.M, which is your vision.
Yeah, which is great. So again, shout out to the audience. Thank you all so much for joining us live or calling in. We did have a couple of super chats along the way. One was from were from Selfish Burrito. One was just a $1 super chat. The other was $2 saying got Demon Slayer on PS5. Support those games on Xbox. I understand. I do have an explanation for that. The reason I got it on PS5, the group got it on PS5. You don't play fighting games by yourself. Sorry.
No. The competition is what keeps you in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm not playing Smash by myself.
No, I'm not. All those hours came from online. I had 200 hours in it. All online.
Dude, all my Isabel grinding to get to Smash whatever they're like top.
Jump off a fucking bridge. That too,
yeah. Have you thrown curse words at me?
Yeah. Dude, I get violent in Smash. When you and I play,
you get pissed off.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's like the one game that can really tilt me because I fight against you and I fight against fucking Brian. And both of you have this quiet confidence when you beat me that I'm like, fuck you. Like, you don't get to do that to me.
Yeah, it's so funny, like, seeing that side of you where you just get so angry. And it's just, I'm excited to see it in Demon Slayer because it's going to be the same thing. You know, I'm going to be a Shinobu main that's going to piss you off for whatever reason. And you're gonna get super angry. So.
Yeah, probably because of course it's a waifu. Like I'm gonna be running around with Zenitsu like a normal guy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Avowed now. So over this past week, we got a pretty big leak from Jez Corden of Windows Central Gaming. He wrote a huge thing on how Avowed is honestly one of his most anticipated Xbox exclusives now, and it's a game that we've wanted details on for a while because I think Obsidian is arguably Microsoft's most significant acquisition when you look at their studio flexibility and the amount of projects they're working on between Outer Worlds 2, Avowed. You've got Grounded in there as announced things, and then Josh Sawyer's working on his own project. Carrie Patel's working on her own project. There's a lot of things happening underneath the hood where I am predicting this could be, to some extent, Xbox's Insomniac. Maybe not as super talented and flexible with, pop culture IP, but I think we're going to see a lot of impressive stuff out of the studio. Avowed being what I think is the stamp on the industry. That's going to be where they make their first big step in becoming known outside of core gamers. So
it's wild that they're working on both Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's interesting is Outer Worlds 2, I'm very confident that they finished the first game and they started on the sequel right away. Mm-hmm. Job listings, LinkedIn's sources have told me that. But beyond that, I was able to confirm it by looking at those other aspects like a LinkedIn profile. They started it right away. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got Outer Worlds 2 by like 2024, late 2023.
You think Avowed's going to be after that then?
I think Avowed, it's interesting. I don't know because we were talking on Defining Duke and Ryan McCaffrey thinks Avowed's coming like 2024. I think it's 2023. I would be very surprised if Avowed was longer than that because when Jez played it in his write-up, he mentioned it's in a playable state now. What he saw was pre-alpha, and they're entering effectively the full-on production of the game now because all the systems are in place. And from there, it's sort of full speed ahead, and then you go into rigorous testing. So what he wrote in his whole article, which by the way everyone should go check out. Shout out to Jez. He broke down the combat system. We'll start off there. He mentioned how it's very much Skyrim inspired, but what's interesting is the evolution of it, and it ties into our call in a little bit earlier with Arctic, where you really have to think about how Elder Scrolls 6 may have to take a look at this. So the way you described it is it's the two-handed first-person combat system. They didn't mention any third-person, so I'm thinking that's out, which sucks because Outer Worlds left that out as well, and I thought that was really disappointing. But anyway, there was spells like Jolting Touch, Fireball. Fireball could burn down environmental objects, clear out doorways that were blocked previously. There was Ketrid Touch, I believe is what it was called, or Karis Touch, something like that, which was like a status effect. You can imbue your weapons with magic, which we saw, of course, in the reveal trailer for Avowed. There was the mentioning of melee combat having abilities tied to face buttons, so you could dodge, shield bash, kick with these face buttons, and then you could use spells in both hands and use turn that fireball into a much more powerful version of that. There was bow and arrow, dual daggers. So I want to start off with just the gameplay systems, what we know there. We'll talk about exclusivity, or I'm sorry, not exclusivity, but story details, if it's open world or not in a sec. But what do you think of effectively an evolution of Skyrim's combat system?
Well, it's just like what I said when the guy tapped. What was his name? Arctic
Arctic,
Sword. I
yeah.
don't want to say the guy. That sounds so mean.
That
Arctic
guy.
Sword. Yeah, when Arctic Sword tapped in and he was talking about how the Elder Scrolls is going to respond. It's sort of what I was saying. Like I hope they evolve like the combat because I don't really enjoy Skyrim's combat is okay. I think it works well for its time, but it's very. I don't want to say clunky because I don't think that's the right word. It's very dated and very hack and slashy, and I don't like that for a sword to sword combat game. So the fact that they're looking to evolve that, inspire off of it, and make it better, big thumbs up for me.
Yeah.
Big thumbs up. It's a good sign in my opinion, and I'm excited to see. I want to see some actual gameplay. This gameplay sounds really really intriguing. The
Yeah.
article was very descriptive with a lot of like big buzzwords. So.
It definitely it's definitely something that I think once people lie their eyes on, it's going to be that kind of what we assumed based off the reveal trailer of, oh, this is Obsidian Skyrim, which I think sounds really good. Because we've seen a lot of games since Skyrim came out try to be like Skyrim, like even Dragon Age Inquisition. When you look at the hinterlands, you can't tell me that they took one look at Skyrim and went, oh yeah, let's try to do that in our already big RPG. It's very obvious. So Skyrim's influence is very apparent here in the combat, but he also described the world space as much more colorful, akin to the Outer Worlds, where Skyrim felt a lot more grounded in, if you will, realism. It didn't use a super saturated color palette like the Outer Worlds, where it made use of purples and yellows, which is kind of different for video games. He described like luminescent caves, flora that was glowing. So what do you think of that beyond also mentioning, hey, that this may not be open world. This is likely going to be a bunch of hub worlds connected, but he said he can't say that for sure, so we can't run a mile with that, but I think it's absolutely worth discussing. So what do you think of what he said so far about Avowed's world?
I think it sort of ties into what I was thinking about with the combat. I hope that the vibrancy and stuff sort of like elevates to like looking like a next gen game. I know that sounds kind of funny, but I hope that it's actually, is it confirmed as to whether or not it's next gen exclusive or not?
It'll be. By the time it releases, it'll definitely be.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, I'm thinking about like Demon Souls, like the remake, and how some of the environments, like in the original game, were so dull and very like washed out. And obviously, it's because the game is really, really old. But when you go back to, or when you go to the remake, it's so much more colorful, bright, vibrant. Another game I was playing recently was Tales of Arise, which also has really colorful environments. And I'm just a fan of that, especially in like 4K, like these super high resolutions. It just looks so good. And I think that's sort of why we're seeing more games sort of embrace that. And I'm glad Avowed is as well, especially with spells. Like in Demon Souls, casting spells, like, it was so cool seeing like what's it called? The little wand you have. It's called a.
I don't know. I never did a magic build in that game, actually. Now
well,
that you
yeah, because
mention it.
it's broken.
Yeah, I was gonna say I did the melee build personally.
Whatever the wand is called, a catalyst. When you like cast a spell, it's the status effect just looks so cool. It glows blue and it contrasts to the environment so well. And coming across like fires in the dimly lit castle, they're so bright. So if Avowed can do that, but even more with the environments like bright, fluorescent, neon looking things, I would love that.
Yeah. I'm all about that personally. I think, just at one point the industry turned a corner and just started to really go crazy with color, and I think it's a good sign because they haven't looked back. I just
the 360 era, like, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So dull and like, oh god, going back to Mass Effect 3, it's like a good example.
That's actually right where I was gonna go because
really,
I remember. One of my favorite things about the leap to the the Xbox One and the PS4 was games on the 360. I have so much love for them. Games on the PS3, I have a lot of love for them too, but they looked grainy. And it was that, and it was the lip sync that always bothered me. And I never thought gaming would get there because it felt out of reach for so long. It's like, oh, I've spent, what was it, like 8 years with these consoles, and we still have yet to see this properly be done. And that transition over, you've started to see more sharp images, deep saturated colors, again,
less
lip sync,
grittiness too.
Less. It's been so much better on a visual front.
It was
even escaping just hyper realism, just art style. It's improved immensely.
Oh my god, so many games like Hades I'm playing right now. I'm looking at it on my screen. Like, the art style is so much more interesting than like your dark, gritty, like nonsense. Mass Effect 3. I remember I beat 2 remake and I was moving into 3. They did a remake with that as well, right? And I guess 2 was remade for sure.
Yeah,
3
they
was
were both
more.
all of them were remastered. One only
Okay,
had the remake touch ups, if you will.
Okay, yeah. So 3, it just looks so. 2 was really bright, colorful, and even the models just looked a lot better. Then I moved into 3, and I was like, this looks so bad.
Yeah, it
But it's
definitely
in
was.
that era.
Yeah.
It's in that era where games are like darker, grittier, less color. I
Oh,
don't know. I don't like it.
Mass Effect 3 was really high contrast. If you go and look at the originals, it was really high contrast. Like, especially when you look at Shepard's outfit. I think part of it's also the film grain in Mass Effect, but when you look at Shepard's outfit, like when he was wearing the very dark N7 outfit in Mass Effect 3, like you could practically see the grain on the grain. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Avowed. When it comes to its open world structure, or maybe lack thereof, I took this as kind of good news. You talked about fatigue at the beginning of the show with JRPGs. For me, a lot of my fatigue is really baked into open worlds because we're not seeing an evolution of them. What I mean by that is I don't mind if your design is, and I don't mean to keep ragging on Far Cry 6, but if your design is checklist, that's okay with me. But it's about how interesting do you make it to approach your checklist. So I was talking with one of our good friends, Soul, about Sonic Rangers, this rumored Ubisoft-style open-world Sonic game, where they said it's going to be kind of like that. And I said, he went, well, would you like that? Because, I slander Sonic all the time. And I'm like, actually, I probably would, at least on paper, because the way Sonic controls and the way that you would have to go about an open world would be vastly different from any other series out there because he's so fast and he does so many different things. And if you included other playable characters, you actually might have something interesting there. And that can apply for a number of different open world titles. That's why I like Dying Light. It's parkour and it's open world and you get a grappling hook. Like going around it is interesting, even though I'm just completing basic objectives. There's so many other examples out there. So when I heard through Jez's report here that maybe Avowed is actually hub-based, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm cool with this. Obsidian's proven themselves since KOTOR 2 that they are really good at this, that they can take these condensed areas and create stories within stories where the arcs happening in each self-contained area is very interesting, but also it connects to the overarching plot, which keeps you engaged throughout the whole experience. Now, if they're going to do an open world with real choice and consequence, which I typically don't trust, like we've seen what's happened with Cyberpunk, I feel like Obsidian could nail it due to their history with Fallout 70 or with Fallout New Vegas, not 76. But I was kind of encouraged by the signs of maybe a hub world, and I was wondering if you were in the same boat, or would you rather Obsidian go open world with something like Avowed?
If we're looking at the Obsidian that made New Vegas, I would love to see them do open world because we saw them do open world Fallout, right? We saw New Vegas. And I'd argue that the choices you make definitely impact the open world. The immediate thing that comes to mind is being hunted down by Legionnaires or NCR Rangers or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really know necessarily if there's much else outside of that really impacts the world, but I think the one thing that really made it feel like your choices had impact was the reputation system with all the different factions. So with Avowed, depending on like what the narrative is looking like in the story, if we're looking at a bunch of different factions, it would be interesting to see an open world. But I'm not against the idea of more of like a hub system branching out, like I guess Monster Hunter would be a good way to look at it. That's another topic we're talking about with Pokemon Legends and the open world debate. But yeah, open world games can bring a lot of fatigue, especially if you have something like Far Cry 6 where almost like barely any environmental storytelling, a huge open world, and the only density there are these repetitive, monotonous tasks that you can go accomplish on a checklist. So I don't know. I trust Obsidian to do the open world and get it right. But if it's not, if they want to try something different, I'm in support of that because they're already borrowing from Skyrim, right, with the combat.
Right.
So if how much do they want to borrow? Do they also want to do an open world, or do they want to try their own thing? Whatever they think is going to be good, I trust, and I'm interested in seeing what they make.
Yeah, I agree entirely. And, what's interesting is we'll always keep calling back to New Vegas, but there has been some staff turnover that can't be ignored. Like Chris Avalon's no longer there. A lot of Obsidian staff has exited since New Vegas came out. It's just kind of the nature of the industry. It's why I always emphasize with Bethesda Game Studios, they're such a rare example where people are working there for a decade plus consistently. Like, it's not just a couple of people. It is very much across the board. People spend lots of years at Bethesda Game Studios, which is great. They're keeping their teams employed as they grow them. That's how it should be. But with Obsidian's a little bit different. They've had a lot of turnover. They've had some internal strife that a lot of people, I think, try to forget about. And while they've made good games since then, I think hubs have always been their bread and butter. I do want to see them expand, though, because I think if Avowed is to be the true stamp that says, like, pay attention to us and gets millions of sales and millions of people paying attention to Obsidian like they do on the level of Bethesda Game Studios, you'd have to imagine they have to go open world. If they're trying to make a Skyrim-like game, you'd have to say they should go open world. Even as someone who's biased and loves their hub-based games, I think the reality is that they should probably go open world. If they don't, certainly I'm not going to complain. I'm fine either way. But I trust that this will be a good game either way, and I simply cannot wait to see it again. That was one thing that Jez talked about to wrap up his article, was how he mentioned that we're going to see Hellblade 2 at the end of this year. He said he'd bet money on it. He's said that in the past. I've heard as much as well, that Hellblade 2 should be shown off this year. But now he's put an event next to it. He said probably the Game Awards. He mentioned that it's also possible we see Avowed at the Game Awards in a 2-for-1 package between Hellblade 2 and Avowed. Now, with the speculation right now, we're going to say 2023. I think it's 2023. Do you think showing a trailer at the 2021 Game Awards is a little too early for Avowed?
So are we talking like gameplay trailer?
That's the thing. I'm imagining so, because we got a confirmation like, oh, it's set in the Pillars universe. You know, we kind of got a backdrop with the reveal trailer. Is it time for gameplay? Is it too early? I want to get some of your thoughts on that.
I never think that showing a trailer is bad, as long as you plan on showing stuff periodically so people don't forget about it or lose interest. So I think there's nothing wrong with them doing that and going to the Game Awards and being like, hey, look, remember Avowed? Yeah, here's some more. And then giving us more at E3. And then I think if they keep people fed once they show that trailer, but I would like for them to do something, because honestly, before like this news came out, it was sort of like, I didn't forget about Avowed, but it wasn't something I was like thinking about often, or wasn't like a game I was really looking forward to a lot, because the trailer came out, and then as far as I remember, there probably has been some sort of news, but it was kind of like relatively radio silent.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I don't have a problem with them coming out and giving us another trailer. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, certainly you'll have no argument for me on a trailer. You know, I've gone back and forth. I'm like, is it time for gameplay or not? Based off what Jez wrote, saying, yeah, it's in a playable state, pre-alpha though. I don't know if you want to have that be especially after Halo Infinite's reveal. I think Microsoft's going to be really wary of how they reveal their games and what they look like. I think just the safest bet is a story trailer. Like, here's the world, here are the factions. Obviously Pillars of Eternity fans will pick it apart and catch all those little details. I think that would probably be the best route. Someone in chat had actually suggested, Dave Lopez did, I want to shout him out, suggested a gameplay engine trailer to give an idea of how the gameplay will actually look and work and feel, but that to me toes the line of CGI. I would rather than paint a stronger picture of what this universe is when the Avowed takes place in Pillars timeline, because it's set in the same world. I think that would be very important to know for those who are like me and have yet to play Pillars, and when they get in, like, how much do we need to know about Pillars of Eternity? I think that type of stuff is really important to let the audience know, and I think it's a good satiation where I can practically imagine that Hellblade 2 will be an early 2023 game at the latest, where I think that will finally see gameplay. Like, it got its reveal in 2019 with the Series X. It's been 2 years. Once we see it, we should be seeing more gameplay. That would just be my assumption, especially with the next-gen update coming out for the first Hellblade. You'd have to think it's time to see that game. So that's at least where my predictions lie. I think a little CGI story trailer for Avowed with gameplay at E3 2022.
Yeah. I feel like if they do end up showing something at the Game Awards, it wouldn't be bad necessarily, because we have like this reporting sings pretty high praises of it, and even the way that the report talked about the game was very colorful. So I'm very curious. I want to see it in some way, shape, or form soon.
Absolutely.
And if I feel like E3 is a little ways out in terms of like, I think it would benefit them. Like, do you have this reporting, and the Game Awards is in what, like 2 months from now, or halfway through December? I think that keeps it fresh enough where people they get the report and then they see it, versus like we wait till E3. I don't think that would necessarily have an impact on anything, but I just think it coincides really close together. And based on what was said, it sounds like it's not. I don't want to say far along because it's in pre-alpha, but it sounds like it looks good. It looks polished.
Yeah, I want to shout out Notrama, I think is, or Notrama, however way you say it, who mentioned that this is a new IP, and you definitely want to keep that in mind too to build interest over time. This isn't like Fallout 4 where you could say, hey, it's coming out in 5 months and sell 20 million copies. It's why, for example, people were really stunned when Starfield got a release date over a year out. And I don't get me wrong, I was a little stunned too, but it made sense really quickly because I thought, well, this is a new IP. People aren't just going to buy it because they know what it is. So I think, it's time to remind people. Again, I keep reminding the audience, they wrote in the Xbox Wire, they're going to show us something soon. That was in June. The clock is ticking. There's no other events nearby outside of the Game Awards. I think it's practically a guarantee it'll be there, but crazier things have happened. And I mean, it's not like it needs to be there. Would I live without a story trailer? Sure. But I think it'll be there. I feel pretty good about that one, but I'll check sources. I'll make sure before I firm anything up, but right now I'm feeling pretty good about it. So we'll see. Anything else you want to add on to Avowed, or shall that be it?
I think that's it. That was a good Avowed discussion.
Absolutely. Let's move on to, we're going to bounce into Nintendo and then we'll get into Fallout 3 a little bit after that. We got this new Switch Online expansion pack. So the base value of the Switch Online service will be remaining the same, but this new Switch Online pack has moved it up to over double the price at $50. I found this really interesting because they're including, of course, the N64 games, whatever gets added into those. They're including Sega Genesis and whatever gets added into those. And now they're adding in this new Animal Crossing New Horizons expansion, which I, by the way, know nothing about, so I don't know how that ties.
I got us covered. Don't worry.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got that covered.
I got it.
We can tie those together if you'd like, but
yeah, I think that'd be smart.
Yeah, we'll do that then. So why don't you describe that, and then we'll get into some of the pricing details and whether or not this is a good thing, which I think the answer for our audience is obvious.
So there's two things coming to Animal Crossing. You have the version 2.0 update, which is what I'm most excited for. Animal Crossing fans out there know that New Horizons kind of dropped a lot of features and characters from previous games like New Leaf. And a lot of these features, Matt, I remember when I was trying to sell you on the game, I was disappointed to see that New Horizons didn't have a lot of this stuff because I think it impacted people's sort of introduction to the game. A lot of people liked it, but some people were expecting more because right now it's more of like a gallery mode type game, if anything is a good way to describe it. Like you build up your town and whatever and people can look at it, but these new features seem to bring more life to it. Like we're seeing farming come to the game, which is really farming, cooking. I don't know necessarily what cooking does in a game like Animal Crossing. There's not really statistics for that to benefit, but it's still cool to see. Yeah, dude, I mean, I'd love to see them try, but they're also bringing back some other characters and stuff. They're bringing like a new island you can go to with a character named Cap'n, which is one of my favorite Animal Crossing characters, and a boatload of just a little like sort of quality of life things. Like now you can place items hanging from the roof. It's easier to decorate your house because they let you make things go closer together. So there's just a lot of features coming to Animal Crossing version 2.0, which is cool. But the other thing that they're releasing is the Happy Home Designer paid expansion, which Animal Crossing New Leaf had a sort of like a spin-off called Happy Home Designer, and you could go in and you would design homes for different villagers. But it was a separate game from New Leaf, so there wasn't really there's a connection in terms of characters, but between games there wasn't really a connection. So now this is going to be an expansion where you can go to this island resort and decorate different locales for different villagers depending on what they want. It's not going to be up everyone's alley. It's not really up my alley that much, but I'm still going to be getting it because you can bring a lot of the stuff you get from there back to your island at home.
Interesting.
So I'm glad it's an expansion, not just a spin-off, because it adds on to New Horizons and adds more content to it, which is what that game desperately needed.
Yeah.
This update is like really good for Animal Crossing fans. But back to the Nintendo thing. So what's interesting about this is the New Horizons, the update is free. Version 2.0 is free. Nobody will have to pay for that. But the expansion for Happy Home Designer is going to be included in the Nintendo Switch expansion, or what is it called? A Nintendo Switch
pack.
Online expansion pack, which means you'll get it for free if you are subscribed to that service. Now, I have questions like, will it go away if you stop subscribing?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Are future titles, like not Animal Crossing, but just other games in general, are they going to put their expansions on there? I know Smash isn't, right? They make so much money with Smash characters and it probably costs a lot of money for them to bring people like Sora in. So I don't think we're going to see something like that. But what about like Breath of the Wild expansions, right? Remember those were like, what, $25 for the season pass? Is that going to be part of this new subscription model? I don't think it will.
Yeah,
I feel like this is just like a quick incentive.
This would all be a lot easier to swallow if they were doing what you were talking about. If it wasn't just, for example, New Horizons, they're like, yeah, all of our first-party games moving forward, if you are an owner of them, their DLC will be free if you are subscribed to our service. There would be no arguments from anybody.
Dude, that would be great. I would pay $50 a month or a year for that. That's perfect.
Yeah, because again, you mentioned Smash, and it's like, oh, well, they make so much money, they shouldn't have to do that. But I'm like, if they were saying that to me, like, you'll always have the Smash characters there. It's like, I play Smash a lot still. So it's like, yeah, having those. And if they did something for Luigi's Mansion or Astral Chain or whatever, like all of our exclusive games or all our first-party games, whichever they want to qualify it as, having those be a part, like those DLCs be a part of that service would make it an easier pill to swallow. They haven't really communicated that yet. And just to make it clear, it says, this comes from Polygon. The Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, which was announced in September, will cost $50 for an individual membership and $80 for a family membership, which includes up to 8 accounts for 12 months. Nintendo will launch this service October 25th. In comparison, the standard Nintendo Switch Online subscription tier costs $20 for an individual account and $35 for a family pack. So you do not need to upgrade, by the way, to use Switch Online to have access to the NES games, SNES games, like they're already included. But just know that when it comes to the Switch expansion pack, that's where the price hike comes in. That's where the N64 games, Sega Genesis games, and as Kobe documented here, the Animal Crossing New Horizons expansion for Happy Home Designer will step in. And all I got to say, man, is I admire the balls of steel of Nintendo. This is a huge penis move is what we call this. That is, like, it's impressive. I'm like, wow. You guys really don't fucking care, huh? Like, you're just like, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna go above 100% of our price tag currently. It's an insane level of trolling.
It's Nintendo. They know people are gonna buy it. It's what I said earlier before we even knew the price tag. People are gonna buy it. Both of us, are going to buy this
because we want to know.
You don't want to play the emulated Nintendo 64 games?
If I were not,
you're gonna buy it. You're gonna buy it. I know you are.
If Retro Rebound didn't exist, I wouldn't. But you've got me. You've got me.
Like, it's gonna happen. People will buy this. I don't know if they'll stick around for a year after, but I imagine the more incentives they add to it, maybe they could. Who knows what they can add to make it more interesting? I just know that Nintendo knows their audience. People will eat whatever they put out because they've got the nostalgic connection that so many companies like try to play into.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad, but we're just consumers, man. Like, that's what we're doing. We're here to eat whatever they put out, and they're putting this out, and they know people are going to buy it, and we will. And they're going to be like counting the money all the way to the bank.
I don't know. I feel like there's been enough pushback that's pretty widespread. I don't know how many people are really going to buy this. I don't feel. I'm of the mindset that I think they're going to have to knock down the price tag a little bit if this keeps up. Maybe I'm wrong. I think you're onto something in the idea that Nintendo will see how many people will just swallow it and buy it, right? And I think they're going to wait as long as they can. But I think if this reaction keeps up, because it's been an overwhelming, like, okay, we knew the price was going to go up. We did not know it was going to go up this much. Like, I was expecting $10-15, especially for Nintendo, who's got a shit ton of money in the bank. I thought $10-15 for what they were adding was fair. Again, This price hike would be more justifiable if, let's say, Pokemon Legend Arceus, let's say that gets an expansion. If that's included, that makes it a little bit more digestible, but that hasn't been communicated yet. And I think
I really
that
don't think they're going to.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't trust them to. They've continuously pulled the wool over the eyes consumers, upcharge them on shit. It's, you're telling me this is your substitution, this is your solution for no virtual console. Instead of just creating a marketplace for those older games, you've decided to make a subscription service that's now 150% of the price of the original version, with a couple of N64 games and Sega Genesis games, plus a fucking Animal Crossing expansion. Like, that's your justification when Game Pass exists, like, and PS Plus exists, which I know isn't perfect, but like, that's your, like, really, it's like they live in their own world. It's incredible to watch them function.
I mean, they really do. They really do. And sometimes their own world works out for them, like with the Switch. And, if you really look at the Switch, it's such a dated hardware. And, like, releasing the OLED, the same exact hardware with a new screen and better battery, but it works for them. But then sometimes it doesn't, like with the Wii U, and it really, really, really bites them in the ass.
Yeah.
I imagine the Switch Online right now is probably profitable enough for them where they're really pushing the boundaries to see how much money they can siphon out of people, even though the service is pretty ass. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Their online is just garbage. There's no dedicated network party chat. There's not even a messaging system on the Switch. None of that.
It's way too far behind for them to be charging this much. Again, if this came with the basic functionalities of online services that we know already, this would be way, way more digestible. But it's just, they're not at a place right now where they can ask for this kind of money for their online service, which is, and this is no exaggeration, by the way, in the early 2000s. It's literally, it's that out of touch in a lot Dude,
the Wii had a messaging system.
It did.
You could mail little letters to people on the Wii. No one used it. It was just a cute little, like, oh, you have mail, and you could, I think you could draw things and stuff. The Nintendo DS had PictoChat. I know that's not a dedicated.
Oh hell yeah, PictoChat was the way you talk to people across the bus in my day.
Yeah, dude, draw little dicks and like send them to people. Like, it was great.
Wrong. You're not wrong.
But so yeah, it's kind of scary, not in the sense like, oh, it's bad, it's gonna bite me, but it's just crazy what they can get away with, and I think they will get away with it. I don't think the price is gonna change. Remember when Xbox wanted to change the price of gold? There was so much blowback. But
you don't feel it's that strong for this one?
No, I don't feel it's that strong, and even if it was, Nintendo doesn't fucking care. Like, these Japanese companies, they stick to their guns, and a lot of times I think it's for the better, but often it's also not.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I respect sticking to the guns. It's just, I don't know, man. I hope that they're listening closely, because the biggest problem was when they announced Bluetooth for Switch, and like the industry lost their shit. Some of them obviously sarcastically so, but a lot of people were like, yes, they did it. Thank you, Nintendo. And I'm thinking to myself, really? This is what it takes. And it's funny because there's situations where you got Nintendo, who I think wisely just takes advantage of those people because they're like, oh, you're free money. Sorry, fella. But then you got people like Bethesda with, I always bring it back to this. Like, you got a Fallout 3 remaster where we'll talk about it in a sec, but the people want stability on PC and Steam achievements, and they'll buy it. And it's like, wow, they're just not taking your money. Like, they don't want to take your money on that. It's admirable, but it's interesting to see how that situation's different for other companies out there. But yeah, Nintendo, it may even be by the time this podcast goes live for everyone for free that the situation changes. We'll see in due time. But
they're like in an unburstable bubble. The only people that can burst the Nintendo bubble is Nintendo themselves. Like I said, like with the Wii U, like they really fucked up, and it cost them a lot, and they really had to shift what their next project was. But
imagine if their games sucked. Imagine if they were like, I know it sounds weird to say, but like, imagine if their first party games just sucked. What kind of position would they be in?
They'd be fucked.
Yeah.
Imagine if their third party games were on other hardware. They'd really be fucked. Like, if I could play Mario on the PS5, dude, I'd be playing it on the PS5, like 4K, 60 frames. Or Breath of the Wild, especially, like, I wouldn't even own a Switch. I don't care if it's handheld. I'd get a Steam Deck. Like, So it's interesting to see, like, how I hope that they need to start like, well, actually, they probably don't need to, but it would be nice to see them start adopting things from other companies. Like I feel like whenever they take something from other companies, like other norms, it's stuff we don't want, like a subscription service. Like,
That's a good point.
like when they could have easily taken like party chat or stuff like that. That's like a normal in other things. Like imagine Xbox or PlayStation without party chat. I don't really use it that much because I just use Discord. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But just it would just feel so weird.
No, I agree entirely. I think they should start borrowing the good stuff from other companies. So we'll see. I mean, it's funny. This comes out the same week that people were attacking Kotaku for calling for piracy. Now people are going like, see, they suck. This is why I'm going to go get Metroid Dread for free now. I'm like, you're just trying to justify being a dickhead, but I digress.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole situation was really hilarious. I mean, dude, Kotaku. The more I go through like school and like journalism, the more I learn about like the ethics of it and how you're supposed to act, like the style of how you write. It's just like looking at the games journalism industry, you can see none of that. They don't give a fuck. And I think part of it is because a lot of I don't want to like be mean to game journalists because I consider myself one in a way. A lot of them probably didn't go to school for journalism. I think a lot.
Or if they did, they just got close to companies and
yeah,
you gotta do certain. It's just a reality that like they're not told to, but like when you see Fanbyte, for example, not writing about China, it's because like there's a Chinese company that owns Fanbyte. So when stuff happens in China, like they're interestingly silent on it, and it's because they can't. It's just it's unfortunate. There's a lot, and there's certain scores that I think are. I'm not even talking about Deathloop on this, but there's certain scores I see around the industry that are a little bit eyebrow raisers, and then you see the ads on certain sites and how that connects. And I know there's a marketing side of even these big game publications that handles those things, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. There's no such thing as paid reviews, but it's very interesting to see how. I look at something like IGN first and the massive amount of cash that changes hands there. And that could just, I've stopped for the most part doing these big sponsored videos and just working with brands kind of separate from gaming because it pollutes your integrity, your ability to even if it's completely separate, your ability to accurately review the product.
I'm working on a school essay right now, looking at like we call them ethical situations, ethical dilemmas in journalism, media and communications. And when I was looking for some in games journalism, there's like a bunch, but the one I'm grabbing from right now is kind of an older one, like back when PS3 was like a big thing. Someone was there. There's a thing called like the Games Media Awards. By the way, if I'm derailing too much,
no, we're good. We'll move on after this. No, you're good.
Okay. So anyway, the point is like there's so much there's a lot of really questionable things in the games industry, the games media industry, and people who speak out about it get pushed out. There's this guy who used to work at Eurogamer, I think it's Eurogamer, Rob Florence, who created a piece on the games industry and why that it's basically glorified PR. Like especially like you look at something like IGN giving Deathloop 10 out of 10s, like it's a little questionable. But a bunch of other companies did that, but then there's also the idea that journalism in general is suffering from not just games journalism, but corporate owned media, where they don't want to report on certain things, like you said, with Fanbyte being owned by a Chinese company. Suddenly they're very quiet on Chinese developments in gaming or whatever.
Yep.
So it's just very interesting the more I go to school and get myself educated on this field, this industry, how games journalism is like a laughing stock. I mean, people whenever I've seen other journalists reference it, they're like games journalism, right? Like it's insane how different. I think it's more so entertainment journalism in general, but more games is just like the one that I'm familiar with.
Yeah,
it's pretty scary for the industry. I hope that things change, but I don't expect them to.
No, I think it's right now. It's sort of like the seed has been planted, and they're kind of closely tied together. Like the mark, because here's the thing. I look at something like previews. I think, and this could apply to content creators too. I'm not trying to trash anyone when I say this, but when the pandemic began, there was this new transition into, I put this in quotes, previews for games. Before the pandemic, a preview meant you put your hands on the game, you got to see it for what it was, but you also understood this is a vertical slice that's designed to impress me. And with that, you walk away, you give your impressions on it. What has happened since the pandemic is there's this new style of preview that people have really drawn to for some reason, which is you watch the game, an exclusive trailer or something like that, a developer Q&A, and you report on that. And I've seen people post like, I saw Deathloop, here are my impressions. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this isn't impressions. This is the worst thing for the industry right now, because if you're eating out of the hands of companies on that level, like you're that thirsty for coverage that you can't say no to them. That's what I told them. I've been honest with like Ubisoft, Bethesda, a number of these companies. When they reached out, they're like, hey, do you want to preview Deathloop or whatever? I'm like, define preview now. Like, that's why I asked them. I'm like, can you tell me what kind of preview is this hands-on? They're like, oh, you'd be watching gameplay that we've provided for you. I'm like, I'll pass. I tell them every time, I said, I have no interest in previewing anything of yours or anyone's that I can't lay my hands on, because it's not a preview. At that point, you're just marketing for them. And what's happened now is you've seen even the press step into that field, because they can't fall behind on coverage because the media is dying in a lot of ways. So they need those day one clicks. They can't opt out. And that's what's happening, is because there's been this revolt against the media, partially due to the political climate, but also in the terms of gaming, just because of lack of responsibility. It's a slippery slope. And that's why you're seeing that close tie. And one of those examples is that there, where that is literally like, you can kind of blur the lines, I think, with a playable preview, because I literally tell them all the time, I'm like, I'm just going to say what I want. They don't tell me to say anything, but I make it clear. It's like, yeah, I'm going to play it, and I may be nice. I may not be. I'm going to tell my audience what they need to know about the game. And that's all there is to it. Not that I'm perfect, by the way. There are other previewers who do a really good job. But my point being is just you see a very close connection between marketing and game development and press. And the press, I think, could be a little too deeply involved at times because of how large they are and how important they are in some respects.
And this isn't new either. Like the thing I was talking about earlier, I remember the journalist, her name was Sarah Wainwright, and she tweeted out like in a contest to win a PS3, but they were basically advertising for, what was the game? Oh God, I can't remember the game. It was a huge thing, but then Rob Florence got fired, or I think he quit because of all the hate he was getting from other journalists, people within his medium. But these journalism companies are becoming like more marketing than anything, more PR, especially with that preview issue you're talking about, which I wasn't really super aware of. It's weird, and that's why people flock to people like you, people like Carrick, content creators who are more independent, who get their money directly through Patreon from their fans or through ads on YouTube. They're not being no one's dangling any carrots in their faces.
Yeah, the reality is we have the ability to say no. I almost feel bad for the press. They kind of can't. In a manner of speaking, because they look very virtue signaling, grandstanding if they say no and publicize it. And if they don't publicize it, they just miss out on clicks. So they have to go and do it. Whereas for us as content creators, I can go do something else. I can speak freely and just say what I said. Like, yeah, by the way, and this isn't a secret, because people have to say, like, I saw it, I didn't play it. But that there are a lot of creators and press outlets eating up these viewable previews like they're actual playable pieces of content. And that's just delivering, I think, bad information to consumers. It's like, you, the consumer, can do what I'm doing. We can all watch gameplay and give our thoughts on it. But for us, as I put this in quotes, professionals who should be doing a expert job on something, it takes a craftsman to put their hands on the controller and dissect the experience quickly. And that's what's missing, too. So
you only see what they want you to see.
Yeah.
In a preview, there might be things that slip through the cracks that like they weren't aware of or whatever. Yeah, we could talk about this for the whole show. It's just like juicy. It's like the juiciest topic, I think, overall in the games and media industry, which you and I both are, I'd say, under the umbrella.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's move on to our yeah, exactly. Let's move on to our next quick bit of news here. Fallout 3 got an update this week. Pardon me. So Fallout 3 got an update on Steam. It was 5.4 megabytes. It's kind of hilarious, right? You're like, oh, what's the big deal? It's actually a little bit more significant than you may realize. So what happened was There's this thing called Games for Windows Live that's been around for a long while, and it made Fallout 3 without mods, mind you, a little asterisk there, unplayable because you could not get into Games for Windows Live because the service has been closed down since July 2014. Beyond that, Fallout 3 is just unstable on PC. It needs like multi-core fixes, all this stuff, which GOG's incorporated, I think, a couple of mods like the 4 gigabyte enabler. They got rid of Games for Windows Live, but now Steam is finally caught up. So there was an update posted on Steam, which made Fallout 3 playable over there. And it was actually really nice to see. So now you can fire this game up, play it on your Steam profile. But what it's led to is this slippery slope of, well, are we going to add achievements now, Bethesda? Are we going to add the multi-core fix now, Bethesda? Are you going to remaster it now, Bethesda? You know, there's a very interesting switch up here. And I want to get your thoughts on it real quick on what you think a update for Fallout 3 in 2021 means. Is it just Bethesda and really Steam saying like, okay, let's make our version of Fallout work properly compared to GOG? Or is this something that maybe indicates work on the license, work on the IP upcoming, like a re-release of some degree?
I don't know. I think it's there's a lot of ways you could look at it. I think it could be sort of some hindsight for damage control. Like, I don't know if it would be possible if someone was like, I bought this game on Steam and it doesn't work and I can't use it because of Windows Live and it's just in a very buggy, unplayable state. Like, do you think Bethesda doesn't want that on their rep? Maybe they don't want any legal troubles with that. That's a way you could look at it, perhaps. Maybe they just like decided to do it. Maybe like Steam reached out to them and was like, hey, you should probably fix this. I don't really know. I wish there was like more information about this other than them just like dropping it, because it would be it's such an interesting thing to happen in 2021 out of what seems like thin air.
It really is. That's the thing is I was looking and this service was defunct in 2014 of July, and you'd think, okay, like maybe they were like knee deep in Fallout 4 at that time. If they were going to do it, would they do it after? Like, did they just have a spare moment? Like, I'm not trying to overanalyze it or overthink it, but it's just, again,
it deserves attention.
Fallout 3 has been out since 2008. It's been consistently bad on PC for a while now, especially when we moved into the phase of having quad core, 8 cores. Like, it's really moved into an area where Fallout 3, again, on PC, even with some mods, can be borderline unplayable at times. And this update, funny enough, has now even broken modding. So what happened was there's this thing called Fallout Script Extender, pretty much necessary for any mod that matters in the Fallout community. And now that we're at version 1.7.0.4 in Fallout 3, the script extender is no longer compatible, and they need to update that as well. And what's kind of crazy about it is they said they're going to work on it, but they have no timetable for it. And what's even crazier is a lot of the modders for Fallout 3, of course, it's been how many years? They've moved on. Either to jobs, or they've moved on to Fallout New Vegas, or they've moved on to Skyrim or Fallout 4. I mean, like, a lot of them have just completely moved on. So it's going to be really interesting to see when Fallout 3 gets back on its feet from a modding standpoint. But beyond that, I feel like the timing of this is perplexing. It doesn't really... It could just indicate nothing at the end of the day, and I could be overthinking it, but I don't understand why they do this now unless something wasn't going to happen, or something was going to happen. That doesn't mean it's a remaster or a remake by any stretch, but you're getting it into a playable state for some reason. And this could just be Microsoft, by the way. Microsoft owns them now.
Oh, that's a good point.
They could just be saying, hey, don't clean our trash up. Get this crap out of here.
That might be that. I feel like that's like the... What's the term? Like Occam's razor, like the simplest answer is like the most, or I don't know if that's what the term is.
No,
whatever.
Simplest answer is the one right in front of you.
Yeah, and I feel like that could very well be it. Like, maybe it was on their docket, it was on the list, and it felt a bunch of stuff just piled on top of it. And they're like, oh, yeah, we were supposed to do this back in 2014 when Windows Live just stopped
7 years
fucking
later
working. Yeah, so I feel like that's what it probably is. But it would be nice if, you know, it's indicating something else, like Fallout 3 remake, please. Yeah. Even a remaster. Yeah. I would love it. Yeah. We all would love it. But I think what I would be interested in with that is seeing the modding scene come to Fallout 3 with a remake or a remaster.
Mhm.
Because in your video when you talked about this, New Vegas has a huge modding. Actually, it's pretty big, but Skyrim's modding
definitely
scene
the biggest modding scene, I think, next to Fallout 4.
and Skyrim, right?
Yeah,
Skyrim's
Skyrim's the biggest for
massive.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's still big.
So like, but Fallout 3 is kind of like the little brother or
Mhm.
the middle child that doesn't really get that love. So maybe, if we do end up getting a remake, this is kind of derailing a little bit. We'll see the modding scene step into Fallout 3. I think that would be really interesting. I hope that they go back and they fix the script extender, but maybe like if this was a command from Big Daddy Phil Spencer, like maybe they're not interested in going back and touching up the script extender. Maybe it's too much work
Right.
for them. I mean, what does that do for them really? They're not obligated to make sure mods work, right?
Yeah, I came up with this theory of maybe this is Galaxy Brain theory, but with Fallout 76 getting the pit soon, I'm like, maybe they think that people are going to retroactively go back to Fallout 3 and they want to have like a working PC
I
version.
forgot that's getting the pit.
But how many people who are still playing 76 like don't already own Fallout 3? Is that really going to make you that much money? You can't. Maybe they're getting it working because of the Amazon show, and we saw what happened with The Witcher. Like that was my other thing is maybe they're expecting a bump from somewhere. But
That's what I'm saying. Like some sort of preemptive like damage control. Like they're hoping like, okay, let's fix this so nothing bad happens in the future.
yeah,
Which suppose makes sense too, right?
definitely.
There's no way to
some
really look
extent.
at it until we see what they're doing with our wonderful Fallout IP. Because right now you got 76 expansion, which most of the player base probably won't touch, myself included. You will, because you're gonna make content on it. But
Of course,
but
it's a
76?
blessing and a curse.
I think it's a blessing because you get to play things that someone like myself wouldn't even try just because of how much I don't like 76.
Right.
Like you get to get that experience, and you're supposed to be objective about it. You get that objectiveness, and then you have the Amazon show. Then what else? What else is going on for Fallout? Nothing, right?
Yeah, nothing.
Exactly. Give us some remakes. Remakes are in season right now. All right, people eat that shit up. People love it.
Mhm.
Or even just remaster it. I don't care. Just give. How many times have they remastered Skyrim?
Too many times.
Yeah, they're adding fishing to it. Can we add
Yeah, I know, right?
something to Fallout 3? Like, come on.
Yeah,
I'm tired
it's
of it.
about time. It's about time. And I'm thinking next year with the 10 or what anniversary would be 15-year anniversary, I want to say. Or is that 2023? I don't know. I'm not mathing properly right now. But point being is I think it's just getting to be that time where Fallout 3 and New Vegas have to return in a more exciting capacity. And I understand that's not Bethesda's foray, but you're under Xbox now. And if Xbox is remastering Wasteland, they're remastering Age of Empires, they got to be keeping their eye on Fallout and saying like, okay, what can we do with this? So we'll of course see in due time. But for now, we patiently await any updates. And you can go get a 5.4 megabyte update on Fallout 3 if you wish. But just remember that it'll break your mods. With that, let's dive into our next bit of news here. Pokemon Legends Arceus. Or is it Arceus? I think it's Arceus, right?
I think you can pronounce it either way, but I believe in the anime, and someone's knocking on my door. That's great. I think it's Arceus.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
regardless of that, Pokemon Legends was believed to be an open world game for some time. But now, I'm looking at this article here from Nintendo Life. It appears there's been a clarification. So, the Pokemon Company has shared a statement in response to a story on Kotaku, which seems to clarify how it will be more like the series like Monster Hunter with segmented areas. While it didn't specifically reference that game, it explains how you as the trainer will set out from the village to various open areas of the Hisui region to complete tasks. Here's the statement, quote, in Pokemon Legends Arceus, Jubilife Village will serve as the base for surveying missions. After receiving an assignment or a request and preparing for their next excursion, players will set out from the village to study one of the various open areas of the Hisui region. After they finish their survey work, players will need to return once more to prepare for their next task. We look forward to sharing more information about exploring the Hisui region soon, end quote. So it doesn't sound quite open world, but they said various open areas. And they would specify if it were open world because, let's be honest, that's a buzzword that would sell them a lot of extra copies off the rip. What do you think of this Monster Hunter style multi-open area setup for Pokemon Legends, which a lot of people from face value and the way it was also showcased kind of reminded us of Breath of the Wild, if anything, like this big, substantial open world evolution?
At first I was kind of disappointed to hear that, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm interested because one, I don't really trust Game Freak to make an open world that's worth exploring.
At least right off the bat, right? They're very
right
iterative,
away.
so it's a good point.
Yeah, I don't think they would be able to really do it and make it super interesting unless they borrowed heavily from other open world games, in Nintendo or whatever. Like Genshin Impact borrowed from Breath of the Wild, and their open world exploration is phenomenal. I'd argue it's better than Breath of the Wild, but I don't trust Game Freak to do that. So the fact that if they're not going fully open world, right? I think that it's sort of like the Avowed thing. I think it's different and it gives them more wiggle room to work on their other systems and make sure they're solid and golden. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, okay, yeah, this being the hub town, this little village makes a lot of sense, and I support it because the last thing I would much prefer this, like hub Monster Hunter going on these missions to a open world full of nothing, a barren open world.
That's kind of what they did with the wild region in Sword and Shield.
Horrible.
Yeah, it was just
horrible.
open and nothingness.
No reason for them to have it there. Breath of the Wild is an open world game that some people would argue has a lot of nothing, but I think specifically for that game, I think it works. If they go into Breath of the Wild 2 and do the same thing, I won't be a fan of that. But with Breath of the Wild 1, I think it works, and I don't want to see Game Freak do that because they're not the worlds are interesting when the way they craft them now. So I think they should stick to that while also evolving the formula in a different direction. People always talk about the open world Pokemon game, the big one. You go around collecting Pokemon, throwing balls at Pokemon or whatever,
throwing balls at them.
Yeah, and like you're like in more of an action way, and this is an interesting development I wasn't expecting, but I just like with Avowed, I support it. Although I think I more so am almost relieved in a way to hear it. I'm feeling a little bit of relief here, Matt, and I think it's because you and I, we both hated Sword and Shield.
Yes,
we both love Sun and Moon. Coming off of Sun and Moon, I know you didn't play Ultra, but it's also phenomenal.
Right.
Coming off of that, oh, dude, it's a great. If you're in the mood for like a Pokemon game,
I would have probably this year, but with the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I was like, I'll just wait for those.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. But going from that to Sword and Shield was one of the biggest disappointments I've had in gaming, and that sounds weird, but it's because it's the first debut for Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch, and they just dropped the ball so hard.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But they don't really care because they got their money, they got their sales. Doesn't matter to them. So, yeah, I'm supportive of this. I think that they have better chances of getting something right going this way than an open world because I don't trust Game Freak at all. With how small they are.
Yeah, they're a very small company.
It would not. I had no hope for Arceus seeing it. Like I'm like, okay, this is cool, this is exciting, but I'm not holding my breath. It's not worth it to get myself excited for something that I'm most likely gonna see like flop. So the fact that this is what the direction they're going in with it, I think is a good sign. I think they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, and they're playing to them, which I support.
Definitely. I when it comes to this news, I was like you. I first heard it and went, I don't know how I feel about this. But then I remembered this is coming out on the original Switch hardware. And I've been complaining, for example, I want to play Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I love Warriors games, but I refuse to play it with that frame rate. And I was thinking maybe with hub areas on a technical level, this is probably better. This is probably a way better call for the frame rate. Like it can actually run now. So if that's what they got to do it.
I wonder if this is like a shift. Like, do you think they were making open world before and
It's
maybe they
possible.
recognize like this just isn't going to be good.
I was rereading the quote while you were talking, and they say like Jubilife Village will serve as the base for surveying missions. And I was thinking to myself, like, what if each village in these hubs had different types of missions that you'd go and do? Like they're talking surveying, like studying Pokemon. What if there's capturing missions and hunting missions or battle missions? I mean, they could do a lot with this and kind of define the world throughout multiple regions, which when you think about it is what Pokemon's always been about. When you even look at the basic line maps of Pokemon Blue, it was always like that, where multiple regions were interconnected and they were all different hubs doing different things. So this seems like a general evolution of that design philosophy, which makes a lot of sense to me. But not only that, it sounds really cool that you can maybe get different types of missions and they're based off different types of regions. And I love the idea of them saying preparing for the next excursion. If this is like Monster Hunter, where you got to get like food and eat and treat yourself, dress properly for the region you're going to, that adds a whole new layer to Pokemon that we really haven't seen. And that I love. It's beyond using like, I don't know if it was TM or H.A.M, but like cut, fly, dude, like surf. Okay, we've seen this for 20 years now. Stuff like wear these clothes, eat this before you go. This will boost this Pokemon. If they evolve those mechanics and add some new stuff in, to me this sounds like good news as I digested it over time.
Yeah, I agree. And like even talking about it now on the podcast, I feel more and more like relieved that this is a thing. Like, and I feel like people are like, "Oh, we're not going to be able to explore the open world with our Pokemon." It could be like the hub serves as an area where you can go off to different smaller open world. You know what I mean? Like let's say something like what KOTOR 2, like you have different worlds. KOTOR 2's like, or KOTOR and KOTOR 2. They're open world, but it's not like you just walk from one place to the next. Like in Breath of the Wild, like in Fallout, like in Skyrim.
Yeah.
Those are like, I'd say like a true open world game. Maybe Arceus is going to be like a smaller open world where you have different, I guess like the word would be like cells, like different regions you explore.
Right.
Like you said, and then if they bring in the gear thing, like, oh, you got to wear warmer clothes for this climate, just like Breath of the Wild, I think that would be awesome, and it would really, really elevate the formula.
Agreed. Absolutely.
And like that formula needs elevation. I think personally, the biggest part that needs to be changed is the combat, because the Pokemon combat is so monotonous, especially if you're bigger on JRPGs and if you only play Pokemon, then maybe you don't really recognize it. But if you go play something like Final Fantasy, like Persona, for me, it would be like something like Octopath. You can see how combat systems are just like so much more evolved.
It's
and
just too much back and
them.
forth. Yeah, not enough extra things you can do during a turn to be a game changer. It's just not enough there.
Pokemon, you select your move, and then you see it attack. You get attacked, and that's it.
And that's fine for like the remakes, like they're doing with Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like it's the old version, it's the old Pokemon. But like as we move into the new era, I'm with you. I hope they evolve the turn-based combat for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think we're gonna see it much in this game. But if they bring in these other changes we're talking about and make the presentation unique enough to where it feels fresh, I respect it. Sword and Shield was just more of the same, except it was less of the same, if that makes sense. Like more of what we know with Pokemon, but then everything that's good is watered down. Like there's like no story. I'm not even joking when I say that. Like the story picks up at the end and it's barely there. And then I'd say the one good thing are like the characters have cool designs, but even that isn't enough because they're not super interesting characters. There's like a few. The music was really forgettable. I can remember,
I thought the
like
music was so Wharf Town the series.
That one track we both like
it's like the Wharf Town or whatever. And I remember looking at the comments, people were like, "This is such a banger. This slaps." I'm like, "You guys have fucking ears?" Like, no, this is not an opinion. This is actually objectively horrible music. It's like someone hitting a trash can while someone's like screaming in the corner. It's like, what is this?
You'll see that for any video game soundtrack you go on YouTube, because if you're looking it up, it usually means you want to listen to it. So people in the comments,
you got people like us who are like, "How shitty is this?"
I listen to a lot of video game music, so every time I look it up, I always read the comments, and there's always like these. This is so nostalgic. It really adds to the atmosphere of this game. Like people really, really, really praising the soundtrack. You see it for like every game with a soundtrack on YouTube. So like you're not gonna see those people that are like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, right. Just looking up to hate on it. I guess that's one good thing, right?
Yeah, right. But yeah, no, it was really, really bad with the music. And there's like a few tracks that I liked. Like I really loved the gym battle. It's not a gym. What is it? The stadium. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like
Oh,
towards
yep. The stadium battles
the
where they make them like
it's like,
really giant
yeah,
and
which is another dumb feature. I hate Gigantamax.
yeah, Gigantamax. Well, here's the thing: Gigantamax could have been cool. Like they did Mega Evolutions, which I thought added something, but like Gigantamax
Yeah.
is like it's the same turn-based battle except you're fat as fuck. Like nice,
Yeah.
let's go.
I'll-
It's not. It's just it's very surface level changes that have plagued that series. I think.
Yeah, they really need to. It's what's the word for something? It's a not a buzzword. Something that like really like attracts people.
Yeah,
But it's not-
buzzword. That would probably be it. Like
It's like the word is like escaping right now. It's running away from me. But it's the something that they add to a game to like look at this, but it's really not all that. Like
smoke
maybe,
and mirrors.
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
smoke and mirrors. So long story short, this is exciting. Arceus, I have more hope for it, and I want to see more. Show us some more gameplay because what we saw last time was awesome.
Absolutely. Time will tell. Only a couple months ago. Last bit of news, and then we will join up with the patrons and any write-ins, questions.
some
Any
tap-ins, too.
questions. Yeah, do we have a lot ready for us?
Yeah,
or?
we got 4 people in queue, and I think everybody gets a chance to talk.
Love to hear it. Beautiful. All right. Well, our last bit of news is a short one, so that's good news for everyone who's waiting in the tap-in queue. Dragon Age. It's a next-gen only game. It's going to be on Series X, PlayStation 5. EA's leaving it behind. This report comes from Jeff Grubb of VentureBeat, and he just says the reason for that is EA is slowly transitioning over, as are many companies. Dragon Age 4 will be one of the games made with next-gen in mind. This is so relieving to hear.
Mhm.
It shows to me, it gives me that same feeling that Starfield's giving me. It's like, okay, you understand your back is against the wall. Removing the multiplayer, going next gen only, you understand you need to at least try to get this one right.
Yeah.
I'm very, very relieved to hear this. Obviously, we can't go into what's the game going to be like now. We had leaks on that already with the heist style gameplay that was originally pitched, and they were looking to make a tighter game. Then they went more live service. Now they're going back to single player. I think it's going to be a messy game. I think it's going to be very apparent, but at its core, it's looking more and more like they're really doubling down. And I can't say what because it would give away my source, but I've heard some encouraging things about Dragon Age 4 on a level of BioWare's attitude. I, once again, cannot specify what, but I just want to assure the audience there has been a change in culture and mindset within the company on how they look at how they make their games. We'll see if that's applied and it makes the games better, but I have definitely heard more encouraging things coming out of the studio now than I did a couple of years ago. So just know, hopefully there's a little bit of positive turnover there. Yes, it's optimistic. Yes, they have betrayed even my trust to the extent where I'm like, fuck you guys. But still, this is, again, a very positive thing to hear as someone who's heard pretty negative shit come out of them for a while now. So I just want to leave that out there. But Paul, obviously very quick topic here. Anything you want to add on for Dragon Age 4 being next gen only that comes to mind?
I'm honestly not a big Dragon Age fan, as in I've really never played them.
Mm-hmm.
But after playing Mass Effect, I do want to. With that being said, anything being next gen only is a plus for me. And sometimes I feel really guilty saying that because it's hard to get next gen consoles now.
Sure.
And it's like a privileged position to own not just one but 2 of them. But it's got to happen. I don't want to see these games coming out on last gen hardware. I want them to take advantage of everything that these consoles have to offer. And I think, we're going to start seeing that more and more. I think by 2023, 2024, this microchip shortage will be behind us, and we will see almost, I don't want to say all games, but a lot of games will be releasing next gen only, and I'm in full support of it. I remember when games, you had the transitionary period between Xbox 360 and PS3 and the one in the PS4. And those games felt the exact same. Like one I remember, Call of Duty Ghosts. That was on both consoles.
Yeah, I remember that.
Destiny was on both consoles, and it's like, these games lasted, or at least Destiny lasted a while into Xbox One's lifespan. Not a long time, but I'd say at least halfway before they did Destiny 2. And it just sucks seeing games being held back by older hardware. And I think, and this might be like another privileged thing to say, but I feel like it keeps people on these older consoles because some people are like stingy, like, why would I buy a new one? I don't have to.
Right.
Right. But I think after like 3 or 4 years, you'd be able to save up enough money to buy your console, the newer one.
In a lot of cases.
Yeah, I'd say for a good majority of people. So pushing like, these games are only going to be on next gen. You're gonna have to get next gen to get them. Once we get past this like shortage and all the scalping and all that horrible shit that's going on, I think people will see. I think most people do see it as a good thing. I'd say.
Yeah,
but the people
I don't think there's any arguing it's going to be bad for the game at all.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be bad for the game. It's people who are holding on to their Xbox Ones and their their PS4s are kind of not going to be happy. But
yeah, but the only thing I'm hoping for is with the hinterlands being kind of this like, masturbatory, like, look how beautiful this game is. Don't you love the Frostbite engine? It's like, no, I just hope they don't get too obsessed with their own visuals on next-gen consoles. They tried the same shit with Andromeda, and I was like, please stop your fascination with your own graphics, because no one, when you look at the success of Mass Effect and Dragon Age, there is not a single fucking screen cap that's people oohing and ahhing over your locales. It's literally people laughing that Commander Shepard's head twisted in reverse mid-conversation. Like, people like your games for a particular reason. It's because of their amazing choice and consequence. They're great characters, and there's a charm to that jank. It just comes with the package, and I understand there's a pride to it, but I'm just hoping that they move on from Frostbite after this game, because we already know it's going to be using Frostbite. That's been confirmed through either Jason Schreier or Jeff Grubb. And once they move on from that, I'm hoping those days of being obsessed with that is behind them. But yeah, Paul, I'm seeing the chat light up a little bit. A lot of people want you to play Dragon Age, and I can say that, as a fan of the waifus, I mean, there are quite a few in Dragon Age that people obsess over. Well, that's
all the more reason to play it.
Yeah.
If I was to play Dragon Age, what would be the first one I should jump in on? Like,
Origins.
Do you think that would hook me? Origins.
Origins is like the traditional BioWare experience. It's funny because I was talking to Brett. I keep bringing him up this show, and I was talking to Brett, and he was saying how he played Dragon Age for the first time based off my videos, and he liked 2 more than Origins. And 2's not that bad, but if you compare and contrast the two, I think Origins is vastly better. But it was interesting. It was one of the first times I've heard that, and I think 2 has a lot of charm. It depends if you're looking for more turn-based BioWare-style gameplay from like evolution of KOTOR's combat would probably be the best way to describe it, or if you're looking for more hack-and-slash ability-based combat.
I'll put it this way. I'm looking for something that's more like Mass Effect 2 and not as much like Mass Effect 3.
That's tough because I don't know. That's what's interesting about Dragon Age being so successful is it's such a fucking weird series. Like, you have a hardcore, turn-based, heavy choice and consequence game with a really good story. Then you've got like this cool, almost spin-off action game, and then Inquisition's like this very stitched together weird project where Mass Effect's like continuous, like it's evolving on things that you already knew. It'll leave behind the Mako, but that's really about it. And it always fascinates me that Dragon Age is as popular as it is, because they really were never consistent with that series in terms of reviews or anything. But I feel like Origins would be the one that you want to play first, because the characters are better there. The gameplay, I think, is better there. Even though you've said I was thinking just now, because you were like, oh, I'm having JRPG fatigue. I think you might be able to move past that by playing a really good Western RPG. And I know that sounds weird to say, but they're just designed so differently.
That's going to be Lost Odyssey.
Yeah, I don't know. Lost Odyssey is a JRPG as well, so you might want to hold off on that. I've wanted you to play that for a while. It looks kind of Western in a lot of ways.
For some reason, I was thinking like it's on Xbox, so it's Western. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, it's made by Square Enix, or not Square Enix, but Final Fantasy devs, right?
Yes, yeah, it is. So you might want to avoid that for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to disappoint you.
Yeah, I know. I've hyped it up for you because I'm like, yo, you like Final Fantasy? I think you're gonna like this.
I know I will too. Just seeing the gameplay and the music, that's one thing.
Look, if you play Origins, I'd probably play alongside you because I love that game. It's so good. Someone clarified in the chat. I should make it clear too. It's not really turn-based. It's like real-time strategy. It's more like, or it's real-time turn-based is how I define it. So it's like KOTOR, but it's evolved. It's like a hybrid.
Okay.
It's really good though. I think you'd like it. You edited the video I did for Origins, so you saw how it plays. The story and the choices, by the way, because you're building an army. So like each main arc, you're adding a piece to your army, and you effectively have 2 choices. And you can make like one wild choice that's like, do you add werewolves to your army or do you add elves to your army? It's fucking cool. Like there's really cool choices you can make throughout that lead to an all-out war. So I think you'd dig it.
Oh, see that sounds like it because I like Mass Effect 2. One of the things I really liked was the suicide mission,
Right?
And where like I know it's that one's more so. I don't want to say linear because it's not, but for the most part, there's like right decisions you have to make, not so much like decisions you have to make that would change the ending. Actually, well, sort of. I mean, if you want to have everybody survive, you have to make the right decisions.
Right.
But if there's like something culminating towards the end where like my decisions are going to affect this big battle, that sounds enticing.
Yes, they definitely do. So look into it.
It's on the list. My very long list of games I have to play.
Excellent. We'd love to hear it. All right. We've got a ton of tap-ins, a ton of write-ins. We'll try to mix them both together. So let's get right into it. Feel free to drag whoever in that you would like.
I'm going to bring Spooky Goose in because I'm in a spooky mood because it's Halloween. Not Halloween, but it's October.
Sounds good to me. Spooky Goose.
What's up, Spooky
Hello.
Goose?
Spooky mood. It's Halloween. Not Halloween.
Oh.
Howdy.
Hey,
Hello.
how's it going?
Hey, not bad. How you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Doing
Thank you
great.
so much for calling in, for waiting for us as we got to the Patron questions. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to actually ask you guys because I saw you got a Switch OLED this week, Matty.
I did.
Have you played any Metroid yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And I
played
wanted to
a couple of hours last night, actually.
Okay, cool. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it only because I'm playing through Metroid right now, which I've only played one other Metroid, which was the one on the 3DS, the Samus Returns, I believe.
Hey, you and I both. Okay, we're on the same page.
But at the same time, I'm playing the Castlevania Advance Collection. And I'm playing Aria of Sorrow for the first time, and I feel like even though Aria of Sorrow is so much older, it is such a vastly better
Really?
Metroidvania.
Interesting.
So
what's
me,
what's the real quick? Just what's the question exactly, so I properly understand it?
Oh no, I just wanted to get your opinion, like your thoughts maybe on Metroid, maybe if it. I'm trying to think of a good way to word it. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine.
Your thoughts on it, right? Basically, is your
Yeah,
question.
like thoughts on it compared to like other Metroidvanias, because I'm seeing as like I'm playing older ones that are pretty well renowned. This one's not as exciting as I initially thought, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Paul, you were about to say something, so you go first.
Well, my question is, have you played Hollow Knight?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So that's the only Metroidvania game I'd say that I have a lot of knowledge about. That I fucking love Hollow Knight. So I haven't touched Dread yet, but I want to. But how would you say, Matt? You can go after this, but how would you say like it compares to Hollow Knight? Like, am I going to be disappointed with the high standard of Hollow Knight going into Metroid Dread?
That's hard because Hollow Knight is
so good, dude.
Hollow Knight's like a gold standard.
Tell this guy to play it, please.
It's not like I'm resisting it.
Oh, you got to play it. It's so fun. Like
it's so good.
For me, when it comes to Metroidvanias, I should share my thoughts on Dread first. I think Dread is pretty good so far. Although I am sort of in the middle on Emmys because they add a lot of tension to the exploration, which I've never experienced in Metroidvanias, which I think is a very interesting layer to add on top of everything. But what happens is you have a lot of these like frustrating deaths because you're getting caught with your pants down pretty often, and then I'm forcibly like exploring the planet as in a pace I don't want to, and that's part of it. It's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. But I think there's just been too many times where I thought I did the right thing to avoid the Emmy, and I didn't. My frustration started to loosen up as I got more unlocked. So I got the Morph Ball, I got the Phantom Cloak, and when you got those two combined, then it started to feel like, okay, there's a sense of openness now. I don't feel as stranded when I get caught by an Emmy where it's like, I'm dead. There's no getting away from this. I'm dead. So I like that mechanic a little bit. I go back and forth on it. I'll see by the end of the game if I actually do like it. But right now, I'm kind of neutral on it in a manner of speaking when I really look at it. As for the actual exploration and progression, once you get that Morph Ball, the game is so good. I got it last night.
Yeah.
Like I was hooked. That's when it really got me. I went, yes, I can go get those upgrades. Like I started exploring the map, getting all the items, getting the missile tanks and energy tanks. For me, I don't really have a deep history with Metroidvania titles. So, I think of, I played a little bit of Hollow Knight. I liked that game.
You played it and you put it down?
I played an hour of it and I put it down.
Oh no! Oh no!
I'm trying to think of other Metroidvania games. I played Bloodstained. That was pretty good. I like that one. So really, I used to not like this genre, but over time, I ended up really falling in love with it. And I think it's because the exploration can be really good if done right. So far, Metroidvania to me seems like it has the potential to be a cut above the rest, because while I have my frustrations with the ME system, I feel like long-term that separates it from the pack enough where it's worked out more often than it's worked against me. And it's a separating quality that, to me at least, I feel would make me like it more than other Metroidvania games. Otherwise, it explores pretty well. I just want to get your thoughts real quick. Why do you feel you're enjoying Castlevania Aria of Sorrow more than Dread?
So the big thing for me, and I know a lot of people have griped about it, but it's the almost like untelegraphed spots for like exploration. Because I know I actually, long story short, when I switched over to my Switch OLED, I had to completely restart Metroid Dread over. And I replayed pretty much all the way up through the second boss last night. Right, pretty sure where you get the Morph Ball.
Right.
And there was just one spot where I completely forgot what to do, and it was one of those untelegraphed, like, you have to shoot a wall.
I don't like that about the game at all.
And I was so frustrated, because I was like, man, how am I playing a GBA game that tells me perfectly, like, without telling me where to go and what to do, and I've not come up to one point where I've been frustrated, confused, lost, like anything. But then I'm like, this modern game that's getting 9s, 10s, like really high review scores is like, couldn't even do something so basic.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It's weird because it's designed to be like a callback to the past, but I don't think these developers get it at times that it's like you can call back to the past without just being weird and frustrating. So exactly what you mentioned, I was playing Dread last night and I was roaming on the first area like of Artaria, I think it's called, that you're in. And then you go to we'll call it just the heated area, because I can't remember what it's called. Yep. And when I first got there, I'm like, okay, I go through these two doors and I can't seem to find anywhere to go because I'm being burned alive if I do. And then I shoot a random wall out of frustration and I see a hole pop in and I'm like, are you fucking kidding? That's where I'm supposed to go? And what annoyed me is good Metroidvanias have a little like hollow section on the map to be like, there's something here, but it's not exactly a marked location.
Hollow Knight does that.
Yeah. And it's so important because it's like, okay, I get you wanted to have your secrets. Have your secrets like that. But if it's borrowing my main story progression, you should not have that.
Yeah.
So my main story was behind a fucking wall that, especially like my girlfriend was looking at the game and I was thinking to myself, like, she's getting back into it. Like, she would have been stuck there for a while. There's no way she would have just shot a random wall. There's no way. And I know kids getting this game, even though it's not, I don't think it's really for kids, but like even young adults, like it's just, it's confusing at times. That's my main gripe beyond the Emmys. So we'll see how it ages, but definitely an interesting chat to have. And I'll be talking about Dread more next week if you're going to be tuning in, because I'm sure, given the length of the game, I'll probably have it done by then.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I really do look forward to hear about it, because it's one of those games I've been really enjoying, but at the same time, like, there are just those in the ME section. I just finally got through the yellow ME section.
Right.
And that was probably one of the most frustrating, like, just parts of the game.
Was that
for me.
the fast one?
Yeah, the one that just sprints after you and you literally cannot run from it.
It's funny you say that. That was my favorite one because I loved how, for me, it actually gave me a reason to run at full speed away. Where the others, I was being a little cute about it. I was like grabbing the ceiling, holding up, and like pressing the cloak, and he'd come and grab me anyway. I'm like, fuck you, you heard me. Where in this one, I'm like, all right, he's after me. I gotta go.
Right.
So I kind of dug that one, but I understand why you wouldn't like that. It makes complete sense. I think what's key about the Emmys is different ones work with different play styles, and for me, the first two clicked with my approach because I didn't have enough tools to really handle them properly. Where once I had all the tools, the speedy one was actually fun. But I totally get where you're coming from.
Well, and the one other thing, and I'll let you guys go after this. Sure. But the one thing I did notice, so I replayed the entire first two ME sections. Okay. Actually, replaying them the second time, I had a lot more fun with them. And I don't know if it's because I knew what was coming, but I felt like maybe I didn't understand the mechanics initially, but I really had a fun time, like, doing exactly what you're saying, like, like hiding against the wall or like trying to get away from it. So, I don't know if maybe it's.
I hope I have the same thing. No, I was gonna say I hope I have the same thing. I heard there's a hard mode that's unlocked once you beat the game, and it's like maybe I'll double dip because it's a short game, right? Yeah. So it's like maybe I'll go back in there and see what that's all about. So that's good to hear though, because that can always be a telling sign of if it's. People never like to admit it, but sometimes when a game doesn't work, at times it can be your fault. Like you missed something, you misunderstood something, and so that's encouraging for me to hear. So I appreciate you letting us know, and thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, see you, Spooky.
Later.
We got a great suggestion from Dave Portnov in chat that I think we should do is let's alternate real quick between calls and patron questions so we don't leave anyone out on this.
Sure. Okay.
So
do you want to go in the order of we have them written?
Yep. We'll just start off with Adam Thim, who writes in.
Okay.
Hey there, hi there, ho there, fellas. That's a That 70s Show reference. I like that. I wanted to know what you all thought about the war that gamers and games media seem to have when it comes to games. The last example was Cyberpunk versus The Last of Us 2. It seems people decided to rally around these games extra hard to push an agenda and just try to piss people off, more than talk about the game themselves with the online discourse. I feel like this trend is getting worse and feels like it's going to one day ruin gaming for people. Thank you in advance. Do you share this mindset?
Good question.
Yeah, do you share this mindset? Do you think it's ruining gaming?
I don't think it's. I think the one thing ruining gaming, or at least like the pocket we're in, is console wars. I think that's the biggest problem. This is an interesting question though, because I think there's some credibility to these arguments, these discussions, these rivalries, if you will. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people, let's say they have limited time or limited money, they're going to want to pick one or the other. And I think the competitiveness between these big titles releasing around the same time help it sort of. Actually, Cyberpunk and The Last of Us, they didn't release around the same time, did they?
No, they didn't.
No, okay. Well, I guess in this situation, then I'm a little confused by it, and I don't know why there's an argument or a discussion about why they're having a war between these totally vastly different games. But what I was going on to say was, let's say you have something like Halo Infinite and Call of Duty. People debating on which one is better. I think that there's credence in that argument, in that discussion. One, because they're similar games, but two, because a lot of people are going to be picking one or the other. But as for this, I don't know. I don't see why anyone would try to say like, oh, Last of Us is better or Cyberpunk is better. They're both ass in my opinion. Just kidding. Cyberpunk is good. Last of Us is a special case. But that's very odd. And I don't think it's going to ruin gaming, but I think it can definitely make people feel a little uncomfortable with what they're playing.
Yeah, especially I was rereading his write-in, and it says more than talk about the game themselves with the online discourse. And I know with The Last of Us Part 2, a lot of the conversations had to deal with outside of the game. Cyberpunk, I don't remember that being most of the case. I think it was pretty honed in on the game. Just a lot of that game was overhyped. So this might just be like, honestly, a pretty rough example. But beyond that, you do see that a lot where people are not able to separate the art from the artist, the game from what's going on around it. I think we're seeing that a little bit with like Hogwarts Legacy to some extent. Yeah. And, I think it's honestly unfortunate because what happens is then you get people who dig their heels on both sides. You get people who are like, I'm never, for example, we'll stick with Hogwarts Legacy because I think that's a pretty sound example. You get people who are like, I'm never buying this because of whether it be the person who was directing the game or J.K. Rowling. You get people who are like, well, now I'm buying it because fuck you. Like, I'm not even going to play the game. I'm buying it, though. And that's just a yeah, right. And I'm just a spinoff. Or I'm sorry, that's just a spinoff of politics. Like, it really genuinely is. Like, there's no other way to put it. And it's been a lot of that lately. And it's this sports team mentality has carried into everything in entertainment. Everything. DC, Marvel, Xbox, PlayStation it's no coincidence it's gotten worse. It's because the political climate got worse. Like, it's just, they're all connected. People feel the need to pick a side.
People want to pick sides.
And it's easy to spout off these bullshit hot takes without much thought on Twitter because they either get agreed with en masse or get dunked on as quickly as they come. And then people forget about them. And so people can kind of tuck away in their safe space. Not only that, but a lot of people think Twitter is real life. Like, they just think your viral tweet or your like 1,000 retweet tweet is hundreds of millions of people also agreeing with you if you were to bring that to the public. And it's like, probably not. And that's what a lot of folks forget. Like, social media sucks. So I think part of the trend is it's a very much a gigantic hive mind.
It's a huge hive mind. It's people love to polarize themselves and join teams. You know, especially if you're bored and you don't have anything to do, or like, I think that's sort of what happened with the political climate. And also another thing is like, it just brings out the worst in people. Like with The Last of Us 2, there's a lot of really interesting discussions about the game. Like, you remember the leak that happened. I'm not going to spoil it, even though I guarantee you everybody in the chat knows what happens in that game.
Yeah, just to be safe.
But people had a lot of issue with that, and I think that's a fair argument. But then you look at people who are being homophobic and having an issue with like Ellie as a character and her sexuality, and I think that's like where the line, like I draw the line. I go, okay, this is actually interesting discourse, gaming discussion, and then this is just politics and hive mind syndrome seeping into game discussion. So yeah, I think it's a problem, and actually I'm going to go back and change my opinion. I do think it can ruin gaming for people because I have seen it, you know, make people step away, not necessarily from gaming, but
from the discourse for sure.
Yeah, the gaming sphere, talking about it. People don't want to talk about it. People will say, I love The Last of Us 2, and they get dunked on. And it kind of sucks, and I think it's okay for them to get dunked on a little bit, like, hey, I don't agree with that opinion. But then you get those vile takes that are probably a minority, but they're so vocal that oh, you like Last of Us? Oh, Last of Us has gay people in it or something or whatever, you know. It's just a mess.
Yeah, it really is. And it's tribalism, and it's just it's constant. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
It's like another thing with The Last of Us too. I think that's a good example. Cyberpunk, I don't really know as much, but remember when people were saying like Neil Druckmann acted out like sex scenes in like mocap?
Laura Bailey.
What does that have to do with the game? Like that's just like trying.
That was legit slander. Yeah, that was legit slander.
And then, like you say, it's just like the political climate, like that where these politicians try to slander each other, like we're at the presidential debate. Yeah,
absolutely. It's just so not. There used to be a discourse there, and I think social media is sort of it's watered that down. Where instead of a full conversation, we now have to condense our thoughts into 180 characters, which you just can never get the full picture on. So it's like people are tweeting less, talking less, and just going back to their own groups because it's like, well, I don't want to really deal with the bullshit and try to explain myself constantly.
And it's also something to note that recently Facebook went down. And there was a big like report / expose on Facebook about how these social media companies thrive on discourse, but like negative discourse. How Facebook thrives on, and it grows and earns revenue over people who are spreading misinformation on the platform, and how they play into that. And it's social media is a plague. It's dangerous. Like it's people get addicted to it and they stop enjoying their hobbies. Moral of the story: step away from Twitter. Step away from social media and just go enjoy what you enjoy. Stop listening to what people say.
I agree. Except us. Listen to us.
Let's
do another call.
We're built different. Just you always tap in here. And we have a Forged Horizons who comes in pretty often. Welcome.
Natural, welcome. Or not natural. Forged.
Natural, Forged Horizons,
Hello.
Hello
How are
again.
y'all doing today?
We're doing well.
We're doing great.
I'm not gonna break your stream this time.
Thank
so.
you. We appreciate that
Appreciate it,
so
yeah.
much.
There's nothing wrong with experimenting. Nothing wrong with seeing what works. That's okay. Now we know.
No. Yep, not doing that again. Don't worry about it.
You're good, man.
worries.
What's your question?
So, I bring one statement that may turn into the question.
Okay.
And then another one. If this goes on too long, I'll just push that back to next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
So y'all have played like Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, right?
Yeah.
Y'all are pretty big fans of that?
Yes.
Persona more so for me, but Matt
Yeah.
has played Shin Megami.
I played SMT4 Apocalypse for.
Natural
there.
calamity.
Oh,
Imagine
We're
natural.
gonna bring it in after.
Imagine
We got two
is
people
Natural's
in.
mic working? Is it?
No.
We'll see if it ends up working.
We'll
But-
bring him back in after.
Anyway.
I think it's mostly like mobile stuff hasn't been working from what I've seen.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Discord itself hasn't really
I'll-
been working much.
I'll talk to Ben. Ben's been working on
Okay.
the tech stuff for us. But
'Cause people technically shouldn't be able to join anyway. Like
Yeah.
if they like,
that's a good point.
but yeah, do continue.
All right, so y'all like those games. So
Mhm.
why do you play Pokemon? It's just better Pokemon.
Nostalgia.
I mean, that's
my-
like the only legitimate reason that I can think of for actively playing Pokemon anymore.
So for me, I really just love. I love it. It really is nostalgia, but I do think there's like. Oh man, old Playbo now is in here.
I don't know how
I just
everyone's
love-
joining, but keep going.
Things
I
are
know.
going wild.
Yeah.
All
Yeah, I
right.
know. It's okay. We're towards the end of the show. The people will forgive us a little bit.
You see, I promise not to break the stream, but
Now-
yeah,
now
no,
others are.
everybody else is
Yeah.
breaking it.
I just bring those vibes with me.
No, I like this question. You're fine. For me, I just love the IP. I guess is a good way to put it. I love the music that comes with Pokemon. I love the charm. I think the world is really nice. It's a good escapism game for me. I've always had like this mindset, like if I could live in the Pokemon world, I feel like I'd be a lot happier because there just seems to be not a lot of problems in the Pokemon world. Like, yeah, you got a few, but
You got
people
Team
seem to be
Rocket.
happy there.
Come on.
Yeah, but like they always
Getting
get
kicked out of the house at 10 years old.
Yeah, but you get to go on an adventure and you don't got to do school, and I don't know. It's just so that was always the thing for me. Like, I want to live in the Pokemon
Yeah, I
world.
think there's a connection there for sure.
I think like a lot of for those of us who played it as a kid, I didn't really play it much as a kid. More so when I got into like middle school, actually. But I did watch the show growing up, and I had the cards. So I think there's a huge nostalgic connection for people. I think a lot of people like the IP, and honestly, like they don't want to abandon something that they hold really close to them. A lot of people have a lot of memories with it. I'd rather see it evolve than just abandon it entirely.
Yeah. For me,
That's me.
I think it's the same exact answer in a lot of ways. It's definitely nostalgia plays a big factor. But the thing is I left Pokemon behind for a while. Like when I was a kid even, I got tired of Pokemon around Black and White and I stopped playing. And that's when I tell this story all the time. That's when I moved on to Mega Man Battle Network. And that was my Pokemon growing up. That's where I played like 1 through 6. I loved those games so much when I was a kid. So I think with Pokemon, it's more so a comfort area. And it's interesting because I don't think the current games tap into that. And I was convinced of that. But as we alluded to earlier, I played Sun and Moon and I was like, this is what I love about Pokemon. Like the surprisingly interesting, heartfelt story beneath a pretty simplistic gameplay system. But I want more now. As I get older, I want more now where my leash is a lot shorter. Like Sword and Shield came out. I played, I think 10 hours it says on my Switch. And I was
never beat it?
No, not at all.
Oh, wow.
Not at all. I literally
Well, there's no reason to. It's really not that good.
But that's the thing is I tend to feel very guilty when I drop games, but I dropped that without second thought. I went, you know what, this just is a waste of my time. So my leash with Pokemon is really short now. And my expectations are higher than like it's no longer how a lot of people are where they're like, oh, it's Pokemon, it's fine. It's like, no, I've played Persona 5 Royal. I would like more games to take a look at their turn-based combat system and try to do something like that with baton passes.
Yeah.
It was for me. Like I played Persona 5 Royal, and I was like, wow, you can actually evolve turn-based combat and make it really interesting. I've seen people play Persona 5 Royal who don't, or not just Royal, but Persona in general, who don't really enjoy turn-based games because they find them monotonous. They find it like uninteresting to watch, and they're like, "Wow, they make this so flashy and so different that it's it's worth
It feels
going
like
into
action at a certain point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
really
that
does.
was me.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah, exactly. You're a perfect example. It's just
Absolutely.
so yeah. I think it's like not wanting to let go of that. Matt, or I guess both of you. I don't know. I'm gonna go get something real quick from my closet. I got from Best Buy involving Pokemon.
Perfect. There we go. But yeah, for me, it really just boils down to that. It's part of the charm is the simplicity. I don't think it needs to be overly complex. But with SMT, it's interesting you brought that up because I played SMT4 this past couple months, and it was SMT4 Apocalypse to be clear, and it was very much like, in a lot of ways, JRPG the game, and I thought it was very simplistic turn-based. It was just a lot more nut crunching, I felt. And I wasn't as in love with it as Persona. Not even because like the game itself was bad. It was just very standard JRPG combat. And the story itself wasn't that interesting.
I went to Best Buy to pick up Demon Souls game. Or not Demon Souls, sorry. Demon Slayer.
Yeah. I made a mistake earlier today. It's funny you say that.
They had like this on the little counter, and I was like, "Oh, are these free?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." And I guess it's like these they used to run like promotions. You can't see the codes, but they used to run promotions for Pokemon where you could go to the stores and pick up like, "Oh, here's a code for a shiny legendary." I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but
I do remember seeing those.
yeah, and like I would always go like to GameStop or Best Buy or whatever to get like my codes for shiny I don't know, shiny Dialga or something.
Okay.
And anyway, I just thought it was interesting that we're talking about Pokemon because this is like for the Gigantamax Eevee and Pikachu.
Oh.
And it's, yeah, and it's you
That's
can
cool.
go fight them, and I think that's another thing. Like, there's just so many like things that go on with the Pokemon IP, like that, for example. Like, you don't really see that often. Like, oh, go to
No,
the
you
store, pick
don't.
up a code for free, like in this specific store, at Target or whatever, and you get you can add it to your game.
Yeah.
There were events for older Pokemon games. Like, my friend Crystar was telling me about how in Diamond and Pearl there's an event where you would go get like a Dialga, or not Dialga, a Darkrai code, and something happens in game and it's free, and it's like, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's something
really
that only
cool.
happens with Pokemon, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So stuff like that just like gives me hope for this series. I want to see more,
For sure.
something better.
Yeah, my hot take is Pokemon at this point is kind of the FIFA or Madden of, because it's been the same game fundamentally for the past almost 30 years.
100%. Yeah.
So
So
the only reason
I have hope for Arceus, but that's it.
The only reason I disagree with that take is because I do think there's like truth to that, in the sense that, yeah, it really is like the same formula. But the reason why I would go and get new games up until Sword and Shield was that like you had a different story and you had new Pokemon versus like FIFA and Madden and 2K, where it's like, oh, it's a new roster of athletes. And
I mean,
that's
they
it.
do have a career mode.
Yeah, and, now
It's
there's
not
a career
good.
mode.
Nobody plays it,
A
but
career mode that's basically an RPG that you have to spend like hundreds of bucks on just to be
Yeah.
competitive.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't even think that's a hot take that Pokemon kind of is like the Madden of turn-based games. Like, it's you know what you're gonna get when it comes around. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a safe simplicity. I think it's a really accurate, fair synopsis of it all. We're just hoping they evolve beyond that with Legends Arceus. I'm like you. I share a hope in that that'll be a turning point for them.
Let's just be glad they don't have loot boxes in Pokemon like they do in FIFA.
Give it time. That expansion
Yeah,
pack is
you
calling
think-
our name.
you think
Five
already got
loot
that,
boxes a month.
that MOBA.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Watch them roll in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
5 random.
They've already
Pokemon.
got pay to win in it, so just a
They
matter
do.
of time.
They do, and it sucks 'cause
Wow.
that game's pretty good.
I still haven't touched it.
I like it a lot. I just don't play it because of like what Forge said here. Just it's not balanced that well because of the pay to win stuff.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Anyway, Forge, it's been great talking with you yet again. We're just gonna use your one question this week so we can get some more
Yep.
people in here and read some more. So we're looking forward to talking to you again next week.
All right.
Thank you again.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep,
Thanks.
good talking to y'all.
Good talking to you, man.
Yeah.
Take care.
See you.
All right.
Do you want to bring in Mike Fury? Or do you want to do a Patron
Let's
question?
do a patron write-in. Let's hold because our next one on our list is Natural Calamity. We tried to
Oh,
get him in
perfect.
here, so let's hold on that one. Or do you want to read that one?
Oh.
Is he still in the waiting room?
I thought it would be like a kind gesture because
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, we'll get him in one of these
We're-
times if he's not in the waiting room.
Yeah, because I just figured like, oh, he wasn't able to tap in, so we'll answer his
Yeah,
question.
we'll
I think
do that
that's
then. Okay. I was going to see
Okay.
if he was in the waiting room. We'll just try to pull him in again. But if it's not working, because he's probably on mobile, I think that's what we're learning. I'll make that clear in the beginning of next episode. You probably need to call in via PC for now, and then we'll see when I talk to Ben if we can remedy that in the meantime. But we'll do Naturals right in now then, just to make sure he is commemorated in this episode. Hey, hi, ho, ham boys. It is a Good Friday, Friday of the Lord, not the Lord, the one and only. Mr. Matty Plays and Kopi, you are Jesus. In this question,
we're both Jesus.
in the last few months, the Big 21. So for the last few weeks, I found a bar I like and a lot of karaoke. I thought this was only a thing in movies. I'm loving it. But I have to ask, have either of you had experience with karaoke? Is Mr. Matty up there singing Piano Man at the top of his lungs as he fosters a whiskey in his right hand? Or is Kopi up there with his heart in his hands singing Radiohead? Let's start off with that one. He's got 2 questions for us. I've never done karaoke.
Okay.
I have confidence. I don't have the confidence for that, though.
So I think like with karaoke, you got to remember that you're not supposed to sound like the greatest singer. You're supposed to get up there and have a lot of fun, and you can sound like an idiot.
I'm okay.
With that being said, I don't think I could do karaoke publicly, but I've done it like a few times with friends, and I don't drink, but I feel like if you're drinking and you do karaoke, I could totally see that as like a really fun time. I like to sing, but I'm not a good singer at all. And by me saying like I like to sing is I always sing along if I'm listening to music by myself, and I don't know, it's just my thing. Like I always when I'm grinding the few video game soundtracks I do listen to that have vocals in them, I'm just like, in the shower I'll be singing or whatever.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not huge on karaoke, but I think it can be totally a lot of fun. And I imagine in your situation where you've got a few drinks in you, you loosen up a little bit. You're up there in front of the microphone with a few good buddies, and you're just like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, for me, it's my friends have deemed that I have the worst voice of all time when it comes to singing, excluding our friend group, Kopi. Just like even other friends have been like, don't sing. And so I just,
really? I don't think I've ever heard you sing.
It's really bad. It's really bad. And so
Yeah,
I'm in agreement. And there's actually a video of me singing Snake Eater online. If anyone wants to hear me actually sing, I did it for a fucking donation because I'm a sellout. And and in it, it's just horrible. But it's like, I told people, I was like, it's going to be bad. And I did it anyway. So if anyone wants to hear me sing Metal Gear 3, Snake Eater. All right. Second question is, what are some good mixed or sweet, if anything? I am not too much of a drinker. Lately, I've been finding myself drinking vodka cranberry with a little lime on the top, or a Breakside Brewery beer, which is his local brewery. What are some drinks you two enjoy? The new man, Kopi, aforementioned Jesus. What are some drinks you enjoy? And are you a party man like I imagine you in my head? This is hilarious. Wow. Your answer for this is going to be hilarious.
So funny. Oh, man. I don't know what vibes I give off that I'm a party man, but, Matt, as you know, I very much am not. My friends kind of actually hate me because I have, like, a huge, like, staunch take on, like, drinking and, like, drugs or whatever in general, that I'm, like, super against them to the point where I'm unfun. But I stay away. But if I were to drink, hypothetically, I feel like I'm kind of like a soda guy, so I feel like I'd want something where I can mix some like Coke in there or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I love to, and I don't think whiskey tastes good, but I would love to imagine like myself like kicking back like with some whiskey in my hand, like thinking I'm a cowboy or whatever. But Matt, what about you?
I was in my drinking days. I'm like you. I don't really drink much anymore. If I drink, I have wine now, and it's typically when I'm writing. It's such a fucking pompous ass, sophisticated move of me, but I don't care. It actually helps, and it's really enjoyable, and it mellows me out. But I'll typically have this wine from the Adirondack Winery. It is a rose strawberry. No, it's a watermelon rose. I think it's what it's called. You can order it online. It's a winery in Lake George, one of my favorite places in the world. Highly recommended that. It's a little, if you're looking to unwind, but my party drink, if you will, when I was in college and I was going to people's houses and like, yeah, let's get drunk. I had these fucking stupid ass Snapchats and stuff. I would have Crown Royal with ginger ale. Yeah. And so, that was my cool guy drink, if you will. I enjoyed a little Crown Royal in a cup. Other than that, my beer of choice, I'm talking like brand beer. I liked Blue Moon, but I don't really do that anymore. It's not. Once you become 21, you could tell by reading the write-in from Natural Calamity. He's fresh. He's freshly 21.
Right.
Because it's exciting for him to drink. And probably a couple months into it, he'll see it gets a little boring. It's like, okay, this is cool. Yeah, I can drink. I can drink whenever I want.
I also imagine when you're older too, like people, not everybody, but people stop partying as much. You start focusing on, relationships, families, whatever, their careers, and it's like not as fun anymore.
It's just whack. Like, yeah, it's
but,
it's boring.
But with beer, I've never really had beer other than when I was like, it's gonna sound bad, but when I was a little kid, I took a sip out of my dad's can. I think everybody's done that, right? Like,
yeah. I took a sip. My first sip of alcohol was Mike's Hard Lemonade, which is barely considered alcohol, but yeah, that was my first.
But like, so when those like advertisements on TV, like you got the picture and you see the beer and the foam, and they scrape it off with the whatever that thing is. That shit looks so good. Like they really make it look delicious, but it probably doesn't taste that good.
If you get it from in my experience, like I've had it at a brewery,
like a craft beer.
Yeah, it can be refreshing for sure. Like I remember went out to a restaurant for my birthday with my girlfriend, and I actually for the first time in years was like, I'm gonna get a beer with dinner. Like, is that cool with you? And she's like, yeah, of course. Like, she is actually kind of hyped. She's like, oh my god, are you okay? And yeah, like it can be refreshing if you get like that freshly tapped beer. But beyond that, yeah, it's to me it's like largely unappealing at this point in my life outside of like a casual, relaxing drink. So that's a great question, Natural Calamity. Let's do. We're at right now 2 hours 37 minutes. Let's do one more call and we'll call it there.
Okay.
If there's anyone available. If not, we'll do another question.
Let's see. We have Mike Fury.
Let's do Mike Fury.
Yeah, and Mike Fury's been waiting.
Mike Fury, hello.
Mike Fury, I heard a sound. That's
definitely.
How you guys doing?
How's it going, man? Good to talk to you.
I'm doing excellent. How are you guys?
Doing well.
We're doing great.
Well. Thank you so much for calling in. You are our last call-in of the episode. So what's on your mind?
A couple things. Oh wow, and my camming coming out. But real quick, so time to make the show a little bit weeby.
Weeby or weepy?
What? Weeby.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it out.
So technically, I was told by the Discord that you're a Hunter x Hunter fan, Maddie.
Not really.
Not really.
Oh man.
No, I apologize.
No, it's here's the thing. I don't make it very clear because there are arcs I really like in Hunter x Hunter, like York New is a fucking amazing arc to me. I like the Ant Chimera arc or whatever it's called. Obviously very good, but I think super drawn out, but like really emotional by the end. But like I thought Hunter x Hunter may have been one of the most overhyped anime I've ever watched.
Wow.
But anyway, what is I'm free to speak on that one, so go for it.
And so now I want to change my question.
Oh, okay, whatever you want, man.
Go ahead. Whatever.
Alrighty, so I'll change the question into what are the defining, like the big defining traits between Persona 5 and the Shin Megami Tensei series? Like, are you as excited as you were for Persona 5 Royal as you are SMT5 coming out November 11th, if I'm not mistaken? He says no.
Yeah.
But that's the short answer.
I'm with him on that. Definitely not. Especially after playing SMT4 just back in August to kind of get excited and prepped for SMT5. My plan was to play 3 afterwards, and when I played 4 and then I watched the trailer again for 5, you kind of heard the same premise of like the world's over and you're suddenly touched by a god when you were dying, and now you've made this pact and you must explore this post-apocalyptic location. I'm hoping that they seemingly have on a stylistic front. I'm really hoping that they borrow heavily from Persona. I understand that this is the series that gave birth to Persona, so there's some pride with it. But please understand there's a reason Persona became way more popular in SMT, and it's not just the social elements. It's very much because the combat's extremely good. So To me, I'm not as excited for SMT5. I do plan on playing it day one, though.
For me, I haven't played SMT before. And
there he
we
is.
got
You're
camera
active
on.
now.
Hey.
I had to hit the button. I had no idea that I was supposed to hit the
It's
button.
good to see your face
Wait,
now.
we got the same headphones.
Hey, look
love
at
the
that. At
SMT5.
this I think it was 7s.
Yeah, 5s or 7s or something. They're great. For me, what I love about Persona the most is the fact that it's not a hardcore. Well, it is like it has all the JRPG systems you'd expect, but it takes itself more lightly, not necessarily like in the themes, but I think part of what makes Persona 5 Royal specifically so charming is like the art style is so derivative and like it's in your face, and the themes are so important and integral to the series. Whereas in SMT, I don't really see that based on what I've seen.
Yeah,
It
there's not
more
much
so looks
social commentary.
like a hardcore Persona. Like it's harder. It's more tailored towards people who are really into like more strategy. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's more up my alley. I feel like I would get more bored with it if anything. Versus with Persona, like you got like the flashy music and the themes of rebellion, and they're like vigilantes, and I don't know. It's just and you're in a school. I just find that more appealing, and I think that's what most people do. Most people see that like, yeah, that's what I want more of.
Right.
So yeah, with Matt or what Matt said, I hope they borrow from Persona, but I don't think they will because they want to keep them separate, which I imagine is probably a good thing.
Right.
But if they're expecting more people to jump into SMT because they recently played Persona, I feel like that might not be a good thing to expect because they seem pretty different.
Yeah. Hopefully they borrow some though. Are you like a bigger fan of one over the other, Mike?
No, I'm a way bigger fan of Persona
Yeah.
5 and Persona 4 than I am of SMT.
I love Persona 4.
But it's like the way that I look at it, like from the outside, like because obviously SMT hasn't come out yet. Persona 5 looks more heroic, more like Avenger, Marvel, like over the top, like flashy, stylish.
Right.
It looks kind of like that a little bit more, and SMT looks like dark, very gruesome, grim, and it gives me the same vibes that SMT3 does. SMT Nocturne. It's like again post-apocalyptic Neo Tokyo. I think it was in SM3, and it's just the whole entire vibe is completely off. And like some of the characters, I know that a lot of people love SMT3 because of the characters, but like how far are they going to go into like using Persona 5? Because obviously if you're the same company creating the same game and both of them kind of like are a yin and yang to each other, if you want to look at it from that perspective, if something works, because Persona 5 worked, like it was up there like in Game of the Year conversations and everything, and that year was absolutely amazing. If I'm not mistaken, that was 2018. God of War, Red Dead, or was that 2017?
2017 is the original. 2017 is the original.
2017. Yeah. So 2017
that was like near came out. That
Mario Odyssey. Yeah, like
there's a lot of good ones.
So obviously you look at that and you're like, all right, so we're gonna have to borrow. And what can you borrow even in that grim, darker setting? Because now it's like angels and gods and like the universe is in the balance. And like that's as far as we've gotten in the trailer at least.
Look at something like Bayonetta where it has like angels and gods and it kind of has like darker themes. It's like a darker setting, but it still is like that really not bombastic, like that really like the flashiness to it, and the music is like really bumpy and jammy. Maybe
you're trying to say that's Bayonetta is Bayonetta's Persona and Dante is SMT. Even though Dante's stylish too. Like I'm sorry, Devil May Cry.
Yeah, what I was trying to say is more so like you can have like those dark atmospheres and themes while still making like they could pull like the music, for example, from Persona, like get more music that's like that, and make SMT more personified. But who knows?
Yeah, I think thematically they're very different, where if they shared gameplay elements, kind of like what you see with Fallout and Elder Scrolls, like completely different vibe for each of these games, but they largely look, play, and control the same, minus guns being in one series. where if, for example, the baton pass from Persona 5 made its way into SMT 5, I don't think anyone would be losing their mind going, oh my God, why is this here? The only thing that I think might work against that is SMT is pretty difficult. And I remember when I was playing it, there were a lot of moments in 4 Apocalypse where I was like, this is just stupid difficulty. This is like the difficulty that you put it on easy because you don't want to be bothered. And that shows that a game's not balanced well. And it's eventually what I did, especially with if anyone's played SMT4 Apocalypse, shout out to you, because the final dungeon is trash. It's terrible. Wow. It's not a bad game, but the final dungeon is trash. Look it up. It's like this aimless exploration, not good at all. And the final boss can really crush your nuts, even though it's really cool. But it follows. What's interesting is while they're thematically or really tonally different from one another, without spoiling anything, both series follow a same arc of like effectively taking on a higher being at some point, which is a very common JRPG arc. And when I started to hear again with SMT5, like this angels, demons, yada, 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 I was like, oh, we're going to fight God at the end of this game, aren't we? You know, it's like, can we do something a little different? I know it's been a number of years, but can we do something a little different? So I'll be interested to see what they do to evolve SMT.
To kind of circle around what you guys were talking about earlier, Pokemon does the same exact thing too. At the end of every single Pokemon game, there's this big over-the-top Pokemon that's legendary, and you know, and now we got Arceus coming, and he's the god Pokemon, and then you had Zamenta, Zanetto, whatever those two were in Sword and Shield. The Z-Dogs is what I call them because I can never remember their names, but they're like guardians of something. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, that is a very JRPG trope-ish thing to have.
Yeah,
but absolutely. So many games you just go and kill God, like in Final Fantasy X, like Persona. Yeah, I like what Persona does though, because like without spoiling 5, like it's not necessarily God. It's kind of like different, and so it plays into the theme of rebellion,
right? Yeah,
yeah, it plays into the theme of rebellion, like with who they pull from religion. It's just so cool. I love Persona, man. Persona 5 is so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I still need to finish it. Wait,
where are you?
Every single time I try to, like, because I have a YouTube channel, so every single time I'm like, okay, I'm gonna dive in. It's like, all right, I'm gonna get 20 hours in, 30 hours in, 40 hours in, and then something else comes out, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I am the type of person where if I disconnect, then I have to start all over. I can't.
Okay, interesting.
So it's been 3 different playthroughs. I've started Persona, and I've gotten to a certain point, and then I'm like,
what's the furthest you've been?
After I just finished the art dude.
Okay. Oh wow.
Madarame.
So pretty early on.
Yeah, you're pretty early. You're only 2 palaces in.
Yeah. Oh, how many are there?
There's like 8, I think.
And Royal.
Jesus Christ! And I thought I'm like, because my little brother beat the original. He didn't beat Royal.
Okay.
He beat the original at like around 100 and something, or like around 110 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
Royal brought me to like 150, I think.
Yeah. What's impressive about Royal is my playtime was only, I think it was like 15 hours more, but there was so much more content across the game to indulge in, and none of that was really idle time either. Actually, I think my final save was pretty similar to my final save for Persona 5, like when they both lined up. So that's what's interesting is I think they just managed to like condense certain parts to make the game easier, while also adding stuff into the game. Like there's new collectibles you can get in the palaces and all that stuff. But yeah, if you do get the time to, there's enough new stuff in there to keep your attention, but as I'm sure you've seen, but it's once you get to the 3rd semester, you're going to be like, why did I ever fight with myself on this? I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know. It's the third semester.
Is straight fire all the way through. Yeah. Whole thing. I don't think I've seen one complaint with it. Like I'm being serious, as in like I don't think I've seen it
too long is the only one I can think of.
No, I just mean with the 3rd semester in general.
Oh, 3rd semester.
Like I don't think I've seen one person be like, this sucks. But you see that with Persona 4 with the 3rd semester, I guess the extra arc they throw in 4 Golden.
Yeah.
Because it kind of, you know, it's iffy. But for Royal, they were like, nah, fuck that. We're going to make something fire.
Yeah, undeniably good.
Dude, yeah. So good.
Yeah, I need to finish it. I got the chat is also telling me I need to finish it.
You can do it.
It's on there. It's like Like I started Near, couldn't finish it earlier. Near Automata off of Maddie's recommendation. I
Another
started it,
one.
Oh,
couldn't
Oh,
finish it.
wow.
dude,
Like
those are
there's
two of
so
my
many
favorite
of
games
them,
right
yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Wow.
like but and like I enjoyed, and then I'm like, damn it, but I'm not gonna be able to finish it. Like
Yeah,
it's so hard. Like it's like
dude.
especially when like new games come out and you kind of like Metroid Dread. I bought it. Like I'm playing it. Like
Mhm.
That one's a lot
and it's like
shorter. I think it's
Nah,
like
dude,
10
I'm,
hours.
Yeah.
I'm about to fall into that Mike Fury bag real quick because I bought fucking Caligula Effect 2 today. I bought,
what?
yeah. By the way, shout out to GameStop. I hope everyone at the end is listening to this. Shout out to GameStop who sold me the fucking game like 5 days early. I had no idea. It was one of the best moments ever though because everyone's replying to me because I showed like Demon Slayer. That came out today. People were like, Caligula Effect is out? Wait, what? No way. And I'm like, yeah, I thought it was out today. And I look and it comes out on the 19th. And this guy sold it to me.
Why did they give it to you early?
I took it. It was on the shelf. It was his only. He was like, dude, get this. He was like, yeah, it's our only copy. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I get it. It's a niche game. I walk out. I see all those tweets. And I'm like, this fucking guy sold me the copy that was on display to be put there for like people to grab copies in the back.
Real. Wow.
Incredible.
The Switch OLED also was sent out early.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people get that
yeah.
early.
Yeah, and it also shows that GameStop's full of shit because he was like, it's our only copy. I'm like, no, you probably got more in the back because he gave me one of those new copies. You know, I put that in quotes, new copies where it's like opened and it's got like the manual and stuff in there, but they broke the seal on it to put it on the shelf. So, anyway, point being is, what I was getting at is I got Caligula Effect, I got Demon Slayer, I've started Metroid Dread, I'm obsessed with Thief Simulator currently, and I'm kind of just enjoying that, like hopping between
Thief
all these
Simulator?
games. Yeah,
Oh,
it's actually it's really good.
Yo,
It's really good.
Yo, I implore you, try Thief Simulator. Well, I mean, you're playing that one.
Right.
Try Drug Dealer Simulator.
I want to play that one. Yeah,
Dude, I wanna play Drug
and then
Dealer
play
Simulator.
Bum Simulator.
What's a
Dog,
bum?
there's a Bum Simulator. It's in early access right now, so
Okay.
please give it like a little bit of time.
Okay.
But yo,
Are
I
they all
played it and
by
I'm
the
like,
same person or same group?
it's more or less the same publisher, but they're different companies, and they all have like the whole truck, monster truck, Euro truck,
Oh,
all of
yeah, yeah.
those is the same company.
Like a PC
and then
builder simulator?
yeah, so it's like that.
I bought Cooking
they're all very
Simulator on
similar.
Switch when I was really liking.
You bought it?
Yeah, when I was loving Thief Simulator and I saw Cooking Simulator for $2, I was thinking to myself, well, I'm probably gonna like this if I fire it up, and I love cooking. I don't do it a lot, but I love cooking. I was like, maybe I'll actually learn something from this. With Thief Simulator, you don't really learn anything, but I was like, maybe I'll actually learn
that's
something
wrong.
from Cooking
But
Simulator.
it's
wrong. You do
cool,
learn.
and then you unlock the black
supposed to
market
know.
online.
Yeah, dude, it's the best part of the game.
You're like, yo, I'm selling this stuff through. Yeah, but try Bum Simulator is just grotesque. Like being the most raunchy person on earth, and it's hilarious.
I
You
love
grab dudes in suits and you throw them into trash cans and you be peeing everywhere, but it's like you got to make sure that you eat and you're just like scrubbing through trash. Yo, it's hilarious. It's so much fun, and you know, no offense to all the people who are suffering through that, but
Yeah.
as a video game, it's so funny.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so
I love that, Mike. It's been great talking with you. I hope you call in again one of these
Thanks for
weeks.
jumping in.
It's been a great way to wrap up our show. So thank you so much, man.
definitely anytime, guys.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we'll talk with you soon.
See you, Mike.
Peace.
All right, that was a great way to end off the show.
Love the energy from Mike there.
Yeah, dude, energy makes a difference. It fuels us even when we're here in the deep hours, 3 hours into the show. This has been our best episode for sure so far. That was an absolute blast from top to bottom. So
great tap-ins. That's what makes the show.
it does. And thank you again to the audience for proving our point with the vision of this show. You've really stepped up. Thank you. And we're getting people signing up now to call in. So we really appreciate that. And we were going to continue to bring in new voices if we're able to, as long as people are signing up. We'll continue to prioritize those calling in. So thank you to everyone who's been showing the love in chat, who's been showing the love afterwards in the comments, who's been tuning in on mobile. Again, if you're listening on the go and you've got this deep, consider leaving us a 5-star review. If you're watching live and you got a couple of seconds, click the link, bring us up on iTunes, 5-star review, hype us up a little bit, get us up the charts a little bit. We're trying here because we think we got something unique to offer people. So it's again, a lot of our success is in the audience's hands, but that's I'm accustomed to that. So, Paul, any closing thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
No, I just want to thank everybody like Matt has been. I think one thing is thanks for the feedback, over like the last few episodes. I've been trying to improve myself for the podcast. So people like hearing me more. I know I was very quiet at first, very shy, things like that. So it's nice to be welcomed by a lot of people. And it's nice for people to say like, hey, here's something you could try doing to help better us listeners. And, I feel like if we didn't have the feedback, we wouldn't have even changed the formatting of the show, which has helped immensely. It's helped it run so much better, like timestamps and everything. So, yeah, don't stop sending feedback if you have something to say. As long as you write it nicely.
Yeah, for sure, right?
As always.
Yeah, for
which
sure.
most people do, which is much appreciated.
Yeah,
and yeah, go leave reviews on Spotify, whatever, Apple, Google, please.
Yeah,
bring this show up. I want more people to see it.
Absolutely, and it helps a lot. And we thank you for that feedback, of course. And very well said. So, with that, we appreciate you all, and we'll see you next week for episode 5, whether it be live here or archived on the channel. Until then, take good care of yourselves. We'll see you then.